Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm Xoxo, this is Xoxo Tarot, and in today's pick a card reading, we are going to be looking at how to find more wholeness in yourself the way that you are now. And we are going to be doing that by looking at aspects of self that you're either aware of or not aware of, and looking at why you should embrace those. So essentially what we're going to do is we have 4 different piles to choose from, and I guess I'll just start with those to make things easier. So starting with the first column, I'm going to be using the Rainbow Heart Tarot and the Numerology Oracle. Is that right? Yes. And then for the second column, pile 2, we are going to be using the Apparition Tarot as well as the Green Witch Oracle. And then for pile 3, we are going to be using the Ember and Aura Tarot as well as the Rose Oracle. And finally, for pile 4, we are going to be using the Outsiders Tarot and the Power of Love Oracle. So based on whichever column that you pick, I'm going to shuffle the tarot, and if the cards come out upright, they're going to represent either positive, quote unquote positive, or, and what I mean by positive is like if you deemed it positive, or aspects of self that you're aware of that maybe you have trouble embracing. Or if it's reversed, then I would view it as an aspect of self you either see as a negative aspect of self or one that you're unaware of, if that makes sense. And these traits aren't necessarily positive or negative. I'm just taking it with the intention that you deem these traits about yourself, if you're aware of them, in a positive or negative light. And so that's what the tarot is going to be showing us, the parts of self that are meant to be embraced. So if that is resonating as parts of self, then you found the right pile. If it's not, I would try a different one. It should sound like you. If it doesn't sound like you, it's not your pile. But then I am going to use the Oracle deck that you chose to clarify why these parts of self should be embraced. There could be guidance, there could be hows, whatever just needs to go there, kind of letting the oracles do their thing and give you whatever message about why you should embrace these. And then we're going to get some channeled messages either from the universe, your spirit guides, your higher self, whatever it is that you believe in, whatever unconditionally loving source that guides you, you believe in. And we're just going to finish off with some guidance for moving forward. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and move forward into the readings now. So feel free to pick more than one pile if you're drawn to more than one. It could be that you need to do some process of elimination, or you might have multiple messages in more than one pile. That is absolutely okay. This is the time to just take what resonates and do not let the rest take from you. But yeah, I hope this reading helps. Thank you so much for being here. Go ahead and pick your pile or piles, and once you have, I will see you in your reading. Hi there, pile 1. Welcome to your reading, and thank you so much for being here. If you guys chose the Rainbow Heart Tarot and the Numerology Oracle, then this is going to be your reading on parts of self to embrace. So if you have any questions about the reading, feel free to go to the intro. I answered all of those, but essentially you should know that this message is for you if the parts of self are resonating. I intend for upright cards to be aspects of self that you either deem positive or that you're just aware of in general. And by positive, I don't mean that these aspects are inherently positive. I mean, they're coming from the perspective that you deem them positive if you are aware of them, which if they're upright, you should. So if the upright cards are not resonating for you, then this is probably not your pile. I would try a different one. Hopefully I can shuffle a bit better. But then with reverse cards, this is going to be aspects of self that are either operating underneath your awareness, so we'll be bringing them to your awareness, or they're aspects of self that you would personally deem negative. So definitely intrigued to see what's going to come out here, and then we'll use the Oracle to explain why these aspects of self should be embraced. So for pile 1, Spirit, what aspects of self should pile 1 embrace to find more wholeness within themselves, and any other added benefits to embracing these aspects we should know about? Okay, we have the Page of Pentacles here in reverse. What else? Okay. We have the Ten of Wands in reverse and Judgment in reverse. And don't worry about reversals. I know some people want to look at them as negative, but they're not. That's only your perception. Anyway. Any other aspects of self? Spirit. Okay, we have the Hermit. And finally, on the back of the deck, we have the High Priestess in reverse. So I'm going to take the back of the deck and we'll look at both. So, okay, now I'm going to use the Numerology Oracle and we are going to shuffle these. One thing I will say is that I do think that all of these energies play into each other. And I definitely think, just like right off the bat, the biggest thing that you need to embrace in general is yourself. But I definitely feel like you've been embracing other people's judgments or the distorted beliefs you have about yourself, and they're probably causing you a lot of frustration because it seems like you feel disempowered. And I see why you feel that way. It's because it seems like a lot of your actions are contributing to this feeling of disempowerment, whether you realize it or not. But let's see here. Let's clarify these first before we get too deep. So, Spirit, can you clarify the Page of Pentacles in reverse? Why is this an aspect of self that should be embraced? Okay, we have health. Okay, what about the Ten of Wands in reverse? Why? Creativity. Interesting. Okay, what about Judgment in reverse? Why should this aspect of self be embraced? We have effort. What about the Hermit upright? Why should this aspect of self be embraced? Ooh, we have music. Okay, so bottom of the deck, we have nature. So I feel like overall, in a lot of these energies, the biggest aspect of self that I think Spirit is really calling you to embrace is your own natural rhythms and your own specific needs. I definitely feel this sense of like judging yourself and not feeling safe to explore within your own energy. But the biggest thing that I can see here is that you're definitely wanting to make a transformation of some kind, and maybe you're in the process of that, but it feels very overwhelming. And it could be too that you're getting bogged down by maybe your own negative thoughts at times, or you're bogging yourself down with priorities and responsibilities that aren't necessarily yours to carry in the first place. So starting with the Page of Pentacles in reverse and the fact that it's clarified by health, I definitely think that one of the things that you should embrace is the fact that you need a better routine, or you need something that's going to fit your schedule better. I feel like however you are going about life right now, it doesn't seem to be supporting the person that you're becoming. If anything, it seems to be draining you. And I think one of the biggest things with the Page of Pentacles here is you might be getting yourself, the fact that it's reversed is you might be getting yourself caught up in this situation where either you try to make changes and they're too overwhelming, or it's just too much change at once and you end up reverting back to old habits and patterns, or the thought of making changes seems very overwhelming to you and you may be like pushing the need to make those changes off, or you may just be kind of like holding on to past cycles or past ways of being for too long, and it's either starting to impact your health in a negative way, or you're recognizing just the fact that like the way that you're living is not healthy, or what you're focused on isn't healthy. And so yeah, I feel like you're getting yourself kind of stuck in a rut. So the first thing that I think that you're meant to embrace is the fact that when it comes to your health and when it comes to your routines, you're a work in progress right now and you're still kind of figuring it out. I feel like you're putting unnecessary pressure on yourself to have every single little thing figured out and have this like immaculate routine. I am hearing, if like the thought of writing one seems too overwhelming, utilize something like ChatGPT. Like tell say that 5 times fast. ChatGPT, like, or some sort of AI program, and, tell the program like the type of routine you want to create, things that you want in it, things that work for you. You could even make multiple routines depending on like energy level. That's something that I do, or something that I need to be doing more, because my sense of a schedule is not very strong either. So we are in the same boat. But with that being said, I do think that making the necessary changes to support the person you're becoming is a task that feels very overwhelming. And I feel like you may be getting too in your head about it. And I think rather than trying to come up with this perfect routine, or come up with a routine that supports the version of the person you want to be rather than the version of the person you are now, I think you're being encouraged to take a step back and look at what changes, sustainable, easy changes you can make right now to help you step forward towards the person you're becoming. But also, I think you're being encouraged to look at this process of change rather than something you need to get right, more so an element of study. And I think the goal of the routine should be that it's functional for you. It's supporting the level of health you want to be at in order to get the things done that you need to. And also, it just makes you feel good. If it makes you feel good and it works and it's not too hard. Like if you're trying to, like for example, if you're a night owl and you're trying to do the get up every day at 4 a.m. and grind and like invest in a beach house and like look at your crypto, like, and that's, listen, if that's for you, then fucking do that, great. But if that's not for you, that's also okay. Don't try to make yourself fit a schedule that is not going to work for you. So I definitely think that the first thing you need to embrace is this idea that you're kind of your own case study, and that these changes that you need to make are not changes that you're making because, like, you might feel like making these changes is like letting go of something or letting go of a past version of yourself, or almost like for me, for example, I see routines as like authority, and I hate authority. So I'm like, you can't tell me what to do. I just want to do whatever I want all day, every day. And like, if I let myself do whatever I want all day, every day, not a whole lot gets done. So you might be kind of in that situation where you're kind of like, there's a part of you, like maybe your ego doesn't want to let go of like a certain attitude you've had about productivity or an attitude you've had about life. Or maybe there's a part of you that's like grieving a way of living. Like maybe you're transitioning into a different stage of life, and maybe there's like, you know, a time of your youth that is leaving, and like you're not able to make the same choices that you did back then and get away with it. I feel like you're being encouraged to embrace the fact that these changes are here, and the fact that you are allowed to have complicated feelings about it, and you don't have to make all these changes overnight. I feel like you're being encouraged to make these changes in a healthy way, and the biggest thing here is you're really being encouraged to make these changes in ways that are sustainable, in ways that make you feel good. Ultimately, the routine will only work best for you if you allow yourself to feel good, if you allow yourself to I don't know why I just paused there. Guess that was the end of my thought. But moving on to the 10 of Wands in reverse with creativity upright, I definitely think that you are either dealing with burnout or are giving too much of yourself away to other people. And I feel like with this 10 of Wands in reverse as well, you may not realize how you have like an attachment to being productive, or an attachment to filling up all of your time and energy with something, either because maybe you're uncomfortable sitting in that silence, or you feel like you're not allowed to be, like maybe you get a sense of self-worth from being productive, or you could be someone who has just like messier boundaries and may have a hard time saying no when other people want your help, especially if you work at a job that is maybe demanding a lot of you right now, or maybe you're giving like too much time and energy to like a job that's not worth it, or to something or someone that's just not giving you energy back. It seems like it's sucking your energy. Because with the 10 of Wands in reverse, I feel like one thing you need to embrace is that you can't carry it all and you can't do it all. And in fact, you're in an attempt to do that, you're robbing yourself of the opportunity to spend more time just having fun, or being creative, or cultivating new things. I feel like if you've been stuck in a rut, or really just stuck in where you've been, I think the universe is trying to tell you that you can't continue to go about things the same way you have been and expect things to change. Like, I don't know if you've ever heard the phrase, like, insanity is the definition of doing something over and over again and expecting different results. I feel like the universe is saying it's time to be more creative, not only about how your needs are met, but it's also time to be more assertive about the time and space you need to focus on yourself. I feel like with the 10 of Wands in reverse here, I feel like you're carrying burdens that are not yours to carry. And I think one aspect of yourself that you need to embrace is that you are someone who cares. You're someone who cares about the well-being of the people around you. You're someone who cares about the state of humanity. You're someone who wants to make a difference. And I think that you care so much at times that it actually robs your ability to be free and creative energy, or to make sure you're taking that time for yourself to relax, or just to have fun with yourself or do things that you enjoy. I feel like especially if you do a profession that is creative and you either work from home or you have like a looser schedule, I think you're really being encouraged to look at how you're giving your time away and also like what you're putting on your plate because you think you should do this rather than what would actually benefit you. Like an example I'm thinking of is like, let's say for example, you have a hard time keeping up with all your housework. And it would be nice if you had some free time off rather than spending that doing housework, if you could be creative or do something fun. So maybe you're being encouraged, if you have the means to outsource certain things so that you can carve more time for yourself to do things that you enjoy while taking certain burdens off of you. Or, for example, this might be encouraging you to look at where you're at, freely giving away your time. You're giving away yourself to other people and to other things that don't necessarily deserve that. You know, your time and energy are precious. And I think one thing you need to embrace is that you are someone who cares a lot and you have the ability to make a profound impact. But if you are not careful about where you are directing that energy, you know, you could be making a profound impact for other people to their benefit, to the detriment of yourself, or to the exhaustion of yourself and, you know, not having the energy to put back in yourself. So I definitely think you're being encouraged to be more gentle with yourself and embrace the fact that you are human and that you do need time off and that you do need time to just be in your own energy and relax and decompress. Because if you don't, not only are you going to run into compassion fatigue, but you're not going to be very happy because you're not spending time for yourself. And I think with this creativity card being yellow as well, I think that you are needing some more joy in your life and just some more spontaneity and fun. And so I think you're really being encouraged to find ways to do things that not only lighten your load in terms of helping you relax, but also kind of helping you escape whatever mental rat race you may be stuck in, whether that's from work or just, you know, for example, if you stay at home with kids, like if you're always very focused on that, like something where you can get out of the regular mindset that you're usually stuck in, I think would be helpful. But more than anything, I think you need to embrace the fact that you're struggling trying to carry the load that you're carrying, and it would be beneficial for you to embrace the fact that you either need help or you need more time for yourself. And so it's time to assert those boundaries or have those difficult conversations or look into ways that you can support yourself, especially if you're neurodivergent in some way, because you've likely spent decades of your life, you know, telling yourself, I should just be able to do things, or I should just be able to do this. And, you know, neurotypical advice is not necessarily going to be as beneficial for you, and that's okay. You may want to look into resources of people that have, you know, similar neurology as you, so that you can find tips and solutions that work for you better. I feel like one of the biggest things, though, with this Judgment card coming in reverse here, is one thing that you need to embrace is finding things that work for you and caring less about what other people think and needing their validation. Obviously, that is so much easier said than done. But I do think that there is a part of you, whether you realize it or not, that is weighed down by the judgments, the shame, the guilt, the expectations that have been placed upon you. And I think a lot of this is past energy that you've kind of held on to and that has stayed in your mind, whether you realize it or not. And I think that it is inhibiting your ability to make the changes that you want to, because it's almost like you have this energetic like weight on you, and so it just makes it harder to get things done. But I also think with Judgment in reverse, it's like, I think for some of you, you might be waiting for this moment, like this aha moment, or this moment where it all comes together and you either finally understand where you need to be working towards or that what changes you need to make. And I feel like what the universe is saying is that those moments will come once you start putting in the work and taking the action. And I think one thing that you need to embrace is that you may not have all the answers as you're making these changes, and that's okay. It's okay to kind of be experimental and feel your way through the dark on this. But I think that one thing you may just be worried about that is not necessary is how the changes you're making either come across to others, or if you will be judged or shamed for the actions that you're taking and the effort that you're putting into these changes. And honestly, none of that matters. And I know that's like hard to remember sometimes, and it can still be painful when someone does judge us or someone doesn't see what we need. But that's why it's so important that you validate yourself and you have the evidence for yourself in terms of like what changes you need to make and like what works for you. So when someone does disapprove or someone does cast judgment, you know, you can just kind of allow that to, you know, breeze on by or just flow right by you, because first of all, that's other people's poopy, not your poopy. And also, other people's judgments mean nothing unless you agree with them. And I think one of your hardest things, or one of your biggest challenges, is just embracing the fact that you're different. You have different needs. Your needs are unique, and you are learning yourself right now. How can anyone else expect to know what you need? It's very easy for maybe you to want to look outward for the answers for yourself. But I think what you're really being encouraged to realize is that, like, the more you kind of deflect in the external world and look for the answers about yourself in the external world, you're just kind of delaying the inevitable effort and action you're going to have to take towards yourself in order to start, you know, making the changes necessary. You don't need anyone's validation to tell you what works or not. That's why making the measurement of success here and what you're embracing here being feeling good and making the changes that you need to make to keep you feeling good. If the metric of like the success of these changes you're making is feeling good, I think it's going to be easier for you to let go of the need or the fear of being judged by others or being misunderstood by others or holding on to past guilt or shame that doesn't have any place in your life anymore, because you'll realize what it feels like to feel good, and you won't want to carry, you know, those burdens or those expectations or those judgments. You know, you'll just recognize them as poopy and, you know, let it flow into the sewers where it belongs. And so I think one thing that you're really just being encouraged to do is to dream a little bit bigger and also just embrace the fact that you are different. I feel like the biggest thing is that you may carry guilt or shame for being different. And as a weird person, like, I get that, but we need more weirdos. We need more weirdos out there. We need more people just fearlessly being themselves in spite of negativity and in spite of other people's judgments, because that's the only way that, like, things really change and we learn how to accept one another more. And it's good for people that have trouble with people that are different. It's good for them to be exposed to different things. However they act and respond is a reflection of them and has nothing to do with you. And I think, you know, just one thing that you need to know as well is, one thing that you need to embrace is that the people that shamed you in your past, that judge you, that make you feel bad about yourself, like, they're wrong. They're like, what they have told about you or like told you about yourself is not true. And the more you know yourself, the less anyone can tell you about yourself. And it gets really interesting when you're in that state, because when people try to tell you who you are, or, you know, or you catch yourself getting stuck in, you know, mental ruminations, or just get stuck in these mental traps of like judging yourself or putting yourself down, you remember where that comes from and you don't allow it to affect you as much. And once you have that basis of feeling good, it's going to be very obvious when you don't. And not only will you have more solutions to get back to a state of feeling good, but also you'll be more presently aware of when you're carrying things that are either draining you or just making you feel bad. So I definitely think you are meant to embrace the fact that you're so much more awesome than you think you are, and to let go of the idea that someone else has the answers that you need, or someone else knows you better than you know yourself, because the only person that's going to do that is you. And so speaking of that, we now have the Hermit, and it's clarified by this music card, which is very interesting, and I'll get there. But the biggest thing that I think you need to embrace is the fact that there is a side to you that is introverted. Even if you like being social and like being around people, I think that you get a lot of clarity when you have time to reflect and be on your own. And maybe you carry some guilt and shame around being more introverted and isolating more often. Like, maybe you feel guilty that you're not out there as much, or you worry that, like, you know, you're gonna miss out on something, or you feel like maybe you just feel bad for spending time on your own. Once again, I can say I can relate to this. My nickname in growing up in my house used to be the Hermit. Anytime I left my room, my brothers would go, "It's alive." And I used to feel like shit about that. But I'm also like, why would I leave my room? When I do, you antagonize me and say crap like, "It's alive." So don't be mad at my family, by the way. That was a really long time ago. And brothers are stupid and they're supposed to bully you. And we're fine now. We're all besties. We love each other. But with that being said, there's no shame in being a hermit. Like, sometimes hermit mode is necessary for survival. Like, I would not have gotten through like the vast majority of my life if I was not able to, you know, just be on my own all the time. So I feel like one thing that you need to embrace is when you do feel like you need time and space to yourself, or when you are just feeling like you need to isolate from the world, do that. And not only that, but set boundaries with like tech and things like that still connect you to the outside world. One thing that I realized that may help you is like, I started leaving my phone outside of my bedroom, because I realized, like, since my phone is one of my biggest connectors to the outside world, like when I have it, it's like the first thing I look at when I wake up. It's like next to my bed. I'm leaving the outside world just like right next to me all the time, and it was kind of draining. So maybe that might be helpful for you, like turning off or like putting certain things in another room that do not help you or that take you away from yourself. I feel like you're meant to embrace the fact that there is this wealth of wisdom inside of you. And the fact that we have the music card here, you could be encouraged to either spend more time making music or exploring music, especially if like you're a newbie, you haven't, like, if you want to learn a musical skill. Music is for everyone, and music is so important because it not only helps us tap into that creative part of ourselves, and it's something that, you know, we can connect to and share as a human collective, but also, you know, there's so many stupid egoic ideas around music that, like, you should only play music if you're good at it, or you should only do music if you're like if you're like monetizing it or sharing it with the world. And I feel like the universe might be saying there could be some healing that you do either through learning music or spending more time getting lost in music. But this doesn't have to be related to like physical music. Maybe you are being encouraged, like you can actually meditate with playlists and things like that. I've done that before, where I'll kind of have like a conversation with my guides through like using like playlist roulette. Like I'll kind of ask questions and hit shuffle and see what comes through and kind of see what answers I get, and like listen to the music. And then if I'm still confused, I'll go a little bit further, and it's kind of interesting because it almost turns into this dialogue like with the lyrics. And then as they like shift into the next songs, it's like, I don't know, you essentially, you kind of know when the messages are done flowing, like you feel it. But yeah, feel free to try that if you are interested. But I also think with this music card being here, this isn't just about physical music, but I think that you need more time to listen to yourself. Because I feel like part of this chaos right now is the fact that, like, it's almost like your soul is quietly trying to read you instructions for the next steps, and you have your fingers in your ears yelling like la 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 la, and like running around in this chaotic panic, like kind of like a scene from like a SpongeBob episode where everything's going to crap. And you're just like, oh my gosh, like I'm ruining everything, I'm sabotaging everything, like I can't get anything done, when in fact all you really need is to kind of slow down and listen to yourself, because you have the answers that you need. And I think with this music card, I'm really just thinking of, you know, the verb to listen. Like I think that you need time to listen to yourself and just make room to listen to whatever wants to come through, and actually be strict with yourself and force yourself to be in silence for a little bit. Like silence can be very healing, and one thing that I've realized is that, like, if I don't get time for silence, I feel drained. So you may want to check with yourself and see, like, have you been bombarding yourself with noise? Like, do you ever spend time in silence? And if not, that might be something you want to look at. But finishing off with the bottom of the deck energy, we have the High Priestess in reverse here. And I usually look at back of the deck energies as kind of like a main idea or something encompassing a lot of different aspects. And I think with the High Priestess being here in reverse, I think one thing that you need to embrace is that you're more intuitive than you realize, and you can take more of an empowered role when it comes to your life path and the steps that you should take in life. I feel like there's a part of you that really doesn't want to take responsibility for yourself, or is afraid to take responsibility for yourself. So it's almost like you either avoid yourself, or you look to people, sources outside of you to kind of give you answers. And while they might start to lead you in certain directions, I feel like you often end up frustrated, or you end up like giving up, or walking away from things that you're trying because they're not working for you. And you may see that as a deficit on yourself, when in reality it's just not the steps or systems or solutions that should work for you. And so I think, you know, the biggest thing that you need to embrace is the fact that what works for you is going to be different than what works for other people, especially if you are like neurodivergent, or for example, if you have a chronic illness, or if you have like a physical disability, or like whatever it may be. Like if you have something that not the majority of people have, you are going to have different needs. And even if you are exactly like all the other girls, you're just like every single other girl, you might find that even within what works for the other girls doesn't work for you, and that's okay. I feel like it's very easy to almost feel like we're doing something wrong. especially when you want to share your life and people are like, that's wrong, you don't wash dishes that way, or you should do it. Everybody's got something to say, but they are throwing stones from their glass houses and they really don't have any room. So you don't even need to pay attention to that poopy. If you guys are like, why is Asa saying poopy like that? It's a Ted Lasso reference, which if you're not watching, you really need to. Apple TV in general, honestly, would recommend. Anyway, speaking of nature, they have a show on there called Prehistoric Planet. It's really good. If you haven't, you should watch it. But with that being said, I do think that you should also just embrace the fact that you are changing, and the best changes that you'll make are going to be ones that feel natural to you and ones that kind of help you get more in tune and in touch with yourself. I feel like more than anything, there's a need to embrace your inner world, because that is where you're going to be able to recognize like all the gold that you're not seeing because you're looking at yourself through the distorted lens of societies and the people that you've been around, you know, projections, insecurities, and other crap like that. I really do think there is a part of you that's more powerful than you think. And I think also maybe just embracing a lifestyle that includes more time for being in nature, or just time to be slower. I feel like you've been going, but you're not really going anywhere other than just right back to burnout or right back to frustration. And so I think the universe is really encouraging you to not only honor what feels natural to you and honor your whatever your body needs in order to feel good, honor, you know, the time and space that you need in order to either rejuvenate yourself or, you know, make sure that you're feeling good, or listen to yourself. Whatever that is, I think you're really just being encouraged to listen to yourself more and spend more time with yourself. And if you are spending time alone, you know, make sure that you utilize that alone time and don't just like waste it scrolling on like TikTok or something like that. Like, you know, social media is not like we all know like social media is not great for us, but it's so much easier to do that than to sit with ourselves. And really the best thing you can do is just be consciously aware of it, because that's what can help you change. And silence is one way I think that can help us be more conscious. So I'm gonna pull just like a little bit, like just like a little guidance card from each of these, and then we're gonna get channeled messages. So Spirit, is there anything you want to elaborate on for this first column with the Page of Pentacles and health? We have gratitude. Universal love shines through the miracles of life all around you and no limitations. You are a celestial being with unlimited potential. There's much for you to share. Yeah, so I feel like first of all, you're being called to kind of look at what's already within your life, what's already beautiful and what's already working, and have gratitude for that. And also to just look at areas in your life that you may have been taking for granted. Like, you know how when you get sick, you're like, oh, man, there was a time when my nose wasn't stuffed up and I didn't appreciate it enough. Like even just small stuff like that, like having a roof over your head, having the tech to be able to be connected to one another and stuff like that. But also I think that you're being encouraged to let go of limitations and let go of what you think you can do, and go outside your comfort zone and try different things. Because even if like you go out of your comfort zone and it doesn't work out, or you know you don't like it, you have an answer about something that's not working and you can try something new. But what about the 10 of Wands in reverse and creativity? We have reflection. See all aspects of yourself through the reflection of the one who mirrors your hidden self. So yeah, I think you're really just being asked to reflect on where you may be putting too much responsibility on yourself, where you may be burdening yourself too much, and where you could maybe set better boundaries, not only with yourself, but the people around you that maybe, you know, are you doing any people pleasing? Are you extending too much of yourself? Are you working 40 hours a week on a part-time job? If so, take it up with them. I should have done that back when I used to work retail, but I was just an anxious being lost in the world. And if you're an anxious being lost in the world, I still feel like an anxious being lost in the world all the time. But you know what? At least we're anxious beings lost in the world together. I don't know. I want to do like a little pinky thing. Anyway, yeah, comment down below if you're also an anxious being. I will try to like them. Anyway, let's see. What about judgment in reverse and effort, please? We have dreams. The universe speaks to you through your dreams. So yeah, if there's like goals that you have that you want to follow, but you haven't because you're either afraid of being judged, or you're afraid of what other people will think, or you're afraid of looking stupid, first of all, like zoom out. Like we all look stupid all the time. And there are people that like are the blatantly looking stupid all the time. Like I burp on camera and have no shame about it. Like there are people, dude, like so much of our life doesn't really actually matter that much. It's so special and meaningful and it does matter. But also like in the grand scheme of things, one of the things that just does not matter at all is what other people think of you. And it is no way to live your life just pushing those dreams back out of fear of what other people will think. Because you know what? Anyone that is actually following their dreams, they're not going to sit there and judge you. Anyone else that has their own inner work to do, and that's not your responsibility to be focused on. But I do think that anything that you were dreaming of, anything that you're wanting to make happen, you're being encouraged to take the action to do that and go with the transformations that follow, because it does seem like in order for certain dreams to manifest, things do need to change. You do need to trust yourself more, and you do need to embrace certain lifestyle changes that support the person you're becoming. But with the Hermit, we have signs. The universe has been gently nudging you forward by revealing to you signs and synchronicities. So yeah, you're definitely being encouraged to pay attention to those. And whenever you notice a sign, pay attention to what you were thinking about in that moment. But even just like if you're just seeing more signs in general, that could just be a sign that you're in alignment with your life. And on the back of the deck, we have free spirit. To be a free spirit is to float without walls, to fly without judgment, and to love without conditions. Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things that you need to embrace, is the fact that you are a free spirit, and you are someone that has different needs from other people, and you are someone who is either more sensitive or just, you know, has needs that other people may not think about or other people may not realize, and that's okay. But you have to be there for those needs. Like, nobody else is going to figure that out for you. But now I want to get just a couple more channeled messages from your guides, universe, whatever unconditionally loving source you believe in. So pile 1, Spirit, what messages do you have for pile 1 at this time? Your psychic abilities are currently evolving and awakening. You may be experiencing visions, vivid dreams, or hearing audible messages from spirit. You are ready for this. Let go of fear. So yeah, some of the changes that you may be making are needed in order to support these abilities that are developing, which is always exciting. We also have cut ties with those toxic people or situations that keep draining you of your vital energy. Say no. Disconnect and take some time for self-reflection and contemplation. Conserve your energy. Yeah, and I definitely think too, pay attention not just to your immediate circles, but even like the media you consume. Like, a lot of media that we consume is incredibly toxic. Like it's so sad. I used to love like reality shows and stuff like that, and I can't watch them very much anymore because they stress me out, and I feel bad for like the people, and I don't know. So just even pay attention to the things that just no longer align with you. You know, there might be a grieving process. You know, I still gotta watch 90 Day Fiance sometimes, but you know, just in smaller doses, and it's more like a little treat rather than a binge, you know? I don't know why. Sorry I keep talking about myself so much in this reading. I think it's probably just because we're going through similar things. And also, I start every single video with like, hi friends, I'm not a content monkey, and I'm talking to you the way I would be if you were right here, and I wish you were right here. But since you technically are right here, because like I'm on your computer, and like we're connected through space and time. But you know, if you were here and I was just reading for you, this is how I would be talking. And I hope that you feel that connection, because I feel so lucky to be connected to you guys. And yeah, I'm not gonna get all gushy. Okay, spirit guides, universe, higher selves, what do you want pile 1 to know, please? Notice the whispers from spirit guides, angels, and passed on loved ones that surround you now. If you've called upon their guidance, they have heard you. Feel the comfort that their presence brings you. And on the back of the deck, we have yes. This is the sign that whatever sign you were looking for, whatever question, confirmation, synchronicity you were seeking an answer to, it is a yes. And I just want to see what's on the top of the deck. You are meant to create more material abundance and prosperity because you've earned and deserved it. Your hard work is paying off. Remember to think big and know that you deserve wealth. And that's why this creativity is so important. That's why this need to let go of judgment is so important, because you really can't ground these beautiful things into reality if you're frozen and overwhelmed by that. So I'm going to go ahead and finish your reading off with some final guidance. So to start, we have Archangel Aurora. Welcome new beginnings and let the sun shine in your life, which I love this because there is a lot of like sun energy here. And I think right now you're meant to cultivate, protect, and preserve that inner light so you can gain the confidence to share it with the world around you. We also have Anna, grandmother of Jesus, seeding the light, laying foundations, divine plan. Yeah, I definitely think that right now you're in a transition period that is helping you set up foundations for something much bigger in the future. You may not know what that is yet. You probably don't know what that is yet, but you are being encouraged to find gratitude for like the person that brought you to this place, you know, the younger version of yourself, and also recognize that, you know, Rome wasn't built in a day, and we got to start with the foundations. You know, it may not be fun as the gargoyles that we get to put on the top of the building, but you know, the gargoyles have nowhere to go if there's no foundation in the first place, right? But we also have the heart chakra with the theme of grace. The trigger statement is, what do they have that I don't? And the true statement is, we are all special. Allow your inner critic to be silenced as you find the perfection in yourself and those around you. Yeah, I feel like especially if you have been criticizing yourself too much, or you don't like to listen to yourself because maybe you bully yourself or you criticize yourself, like learning to not judge yourself and just allow yourself to express without judgment can, one, help you let go of like the need to be afflicted by other people's judgments, but also you'll realize how you've been holding yourself back so much by just not allowing yourself to express. Like, to be cringe is to be free. Allow yourself to be cringe and let go of the fear of being cringe, because anyone who's afraid of being cringe are the cringe ones themselves that are truly trapped. But anyway, we have, I will learn to rest and restore my strength whenever I feel tired. I give myself permission to just be, which is so important, and you do need time to rest, especially if you have been burnt out. But finally, we have surrender your need to always be right. Give others the gift of letting them be right. Be yielding, not rigid. This will help resolve conflicts and improve your relationships. So I also think, you know, if there are people in your life that maybe like you've been afraid to set boundaries with because they're either going to disagree with you, or if you've been afraid to make changes or take risks because you're afraid of looking stupid if they don't work out or they're wrong, like, first of all, you need to let go of that. It's okay to not know what's going to happen, but I'm sure you would much rather live your life and take those risks than be someone that sits there judging other people for taking risks and asking yourself, what if? You know, it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to not know, and it's okay to explore. I think right now what you're meant to embrace is this idea that there is no black and white way to live. There is no right or wrong. There is no such thing as like positive or negative. This is rather all just opportunities for you to grow and learn. And you don't need to have everything figured out. You don't have anything to prove. The only thing that you truly need to do is just be kinder to yourself and embrace this journey and this new path, because I feel like what you uncover, you're not only going to love, but realize has deserved your love this whole time. And I think it's going to be a very healing process for you to be able to not only embrace the person that you are, but to be able to see and validate yourself and recognize all those wonderful attributes within you that you've slept on in the past. So pile 1, that is where I'm going to leave this reading. Thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you so much for letting my ads play in the background while you do something else. That is one of the simplest and easiest ways to support me and show appreciation for what I do. But if you would like to support me in any other ways, liking the video is incredibly helpful. Thank you to everyone who does that. Commenting down below, letting me know how it resonates, subscribing if you haven't already, and clicking the little notification bell to be notified whenever I upload a new reading is always helpful. You can check out a reading with an extended, or you just check out any of my readings in general. That's always helpful. You can check out my candles. Be sure to use code ASO10 for 10% off, as well as I have merch link down below and my social media. But that's all I have for you guys. So thank you so much for watching and for being here, for giving me the opportunity to read your cards. I hope you all have a wonderful day or night whenever it is that you're watching this video, and I hope you'll come back and see me again soon. Bye! Hi there, Pile 2. Welcome to your reading, and thank you so much for being here. If you guys chose the Greenwich Oracle and the Apparition Tarot, then this is going to be your reading on how to find more wholeness in yourself by embracing these aspects of self, whatever aspects of self want to come through. So I gave a full breakdown of the reading in the intro, but just quickly while I shuffle, I'm going to be using the tarot to look at aspects of yourself. So if these sound like aspects of yourself, then you found the right pile. If not, then I would try a different one. But essentially, if the cards come out upright, then I am seeing that as either an aspect of self that you're consciously aware of, or an aspect of self that you deem in a positive light, or you see as positive. Doesn't mean the attribute itself is positive, but you would deem it as positive. And then, man, we're not bridging with this deck. If the cards come out negative, if a card comes out reversed, then that I'm going to take that to mean it's either an aspect of self that you're either not very conscious of, or you're just not conscious of at all, or you deem it as like a negative aspect within you. And then that's as good as we're gonna get. Once we get those, then we will use the oracle to clarify why these aspects of self should be embraced. So pile 2, Spirit, what aspects of self should they embrace, please? Okay, we have the 6 of Wands. Love to see that. What else? We have the 10 of Cups. Beautiful. What else? We have the Seven of Cups in reverse. And one more, please. We have the Eight of Pentacles in reverse. And then on the back of the deck, we have Temperance in reverse. Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and shuffle your Oracle deck, which is the Green Witch Oracle. And I did quickly want to say while I shuffle, like, big shout out to everyone who supports me in any way you can. One of the most helpful things you can do is leave me a like. Oh, that's so much more satisfying. Like for satisfying shuffling, or just if you like the video in general. If not, I'm just grateful you're here. Thank you so much for supporting me in any way you feel called to, even if that's just a silent viewer. I know y'all are there. I wish you would speak up more often, but I'm just grateful you're here. So let's start by seeing, why should pile 2 embrace this Six of Wands aspect for themselves? Okay, we have purification. Why should pile 2 embrace this 10 of Cups element within themselves? We have focus. Why should pile 2 embrace the 7 of Cups in reverse? We have success. And finally, why should pile 2 embrace the 8 of Pentacles in reverse? We have gratitude. And on the back of the deck, we have tranquility. Oh, I think I moved the candle really far. By the way, one way to support, check out my candles, use code XO10 for 10% off. Okay, here, I'm gonna move this actually over here so you can see it better, because pile 1 definitely did not get to see the back of the deck of their Oracle deck, but let's just shift this over. Okay, gorgeous. Yes, that looks good. Okay, I think we can start channeling now. I do think that we are ready. Okay, well, first of all, pile 2, I feel like I have to just start off by saying that I think that you need to embrace, like, your awesomeness more, which I know sounds like I'm just like blowing smoke up your butt, but I'm really not. Like, you are aware of this yourself, but I think that you still have a tendency to either allow your ego to get the best of you, or allow your fears and like self-sabotaging to get the best of you. So first of all, I think the first thing that you need to embrace about yourself with the Six of Wands is whatever positive reception you've gotten from others, and whatever positive recognition you've gotten, whether it be through your job, whether it be from the people around you, from your friends, whatever it may be, I definitely think that you've reached a point of success in your life, or just reached this point where you're either doing well for yourself, or other people are really commending your ability to do whatever it is that is making you shine. I feel like more than anything, you're being called to embrace the success you've already cultivated for yourself, and recognize that that success is evidence of your capability to continue to do great things in the future, and your ability to follow your dreams and do things that you feel passionate about. I do feel like in certain ways, your ego may struggle with this success, or you may struggle to appreciate it. Maybe because you feel like, either like for some of you, I feel like you maybe feel uncomfortable with this idea of success because you're afraid of losing it, or you feel like you haven't done enough. You may deal with imposter syndrome, but also it may be that you at times are like too proud to allow yourself to like enjoy your accomplishments, or you feel like whatever you accomplish, it's not good enough. And I feel like one thing that you need to embrace is that you've already accomplished a lot in your life, and whatever you have accomplished is worth celebrating. And I think that if people have been saying really kind things to you, or just embracing you and complimenting you, I think that you need to embrace those elements of yourself. I feel like you're being called to really embrace the confidence you're starting to have in yourself and the person that you're growing into. The fact that we have purification here as well really makes me think that you're being called to embrace this idea of who you're becoming, and embrace the positive elements of yourself that have gotten you to this point where you are now. I feel like you may hold on to negative judgments or just negative perceptions people have had of you. And I feel like your ego, from a place of fear, may hold on to any negativity people send your way. Like, for example, if you are on social media, maybe you find yourself censoring yourself or being afraid to share certain things because you feel like you're going to be attacked. Or maybe you find yourself being afraid to just share any of yourself because you're afraid of what other people will think, or you're afraid of looking stupid, or like certain childhood wounds are triggered. And I think that you're being called to embrace the fact that you're not in that place that you once were. With this purification card here, I think you're being called to embrace a mindset that not only allows you to celebrate how far you've come, but to look forward to the future and look towards the future from a place of neutrality or optimism, depending on which resonates more with you, and allowing yourself to look at things from a either more neutral or positive perspective, allowing the way you speak about yourself to be more positive, allowing yourself, like when you think about your story, you think about your triumphs. And I feel like you're really being called to embrace the things that you've triumphed over. And if you have never taken the time to really reflect on how far you've come and how much you've overcome, I think you're really being called to look at that for yourself and look at just, you know, how incredible you are, how much you've overcome, like what you deserve to embrace about yourself. But we also have, with the 10 of Cups being here in focus, I think you're also being called to embrace whatever dreams that you have around either having a partner or having a family, or whatever dreams you have around feeling content. I definitely think that for some of you, you could already be in this place where either you have a partner that you're really happy with, or you're really happy in your family life, and it may be that you don't devote enough time to it, or you worry about losing it. Or let's say, for example, maybe you're manifesting a 10 of Cups situation where you either, which the 10 of Cups to me is emotional fulfillment, harmony, content, love. And so I definitely think that embracing those qualities within yourself is going to help attract it outside of you. But I also think you are being called to embrace the connections that make you feel that way, and be open to connections that may bring this to you. For example, if you are in a relationship with someone, or you're seeing someone and you're both like really happy, I feel like you're being encouraged to embrace that and embrace the fact that this positive thing is happening in your life, or you do feel that way. And if you're not at that place yet, I feel like you're being called to embrace the idea that this 10 of Cups energy is an inevitability for you, rather than something that seems out of reach. I feel like you're being called to focus on what already brings you this fulfillment, or focus on finding ways to bring that fulfillment to yourself in the meantime, while the universe helps deliver that emotional fulfillment with others in the near future. I feel like you're being encouraged to focus on these experiences and these emotions, because when you do focus on that contentment, when you do focus on that feeling of like completion and happiness, I feel like that's going to help you be more present and aware of when those experiences are happening, so you don't take them for granted. And two, I think that actually, like, for example, if you are in a relationship, or you do have like, you really enjoy your family life, or just you have connections in your life that bring you a lot of joy, I think you're being encouraged to make those a priority in your life and not feel guilty about that, because not everyone is even, first of all, lucky enough to have connections like that with people. But I also think that spending time with those individuals, or spending time doing the things that give you this 10 of Cups energy, reminds you of what's truly important, and to not like lose the forest for the trees, or whatever that quote is. I don't even understand that quote. I don't know why I said it. That was probably for you. But I do think as well, you know, if you tend to get cloudy and confused, which you do, I think that being around your loved ones could be a way for you to not only regroup and remind yourself like what's truly important, but also to have this like source of completion outside of anything that you may do, like academically or career wise. And I also think as well, like, you're being called to recognize that whatever positive experiences you have in your life or are manifesting, you do deserve them. And not only do you deserve them, but you deserve to be more open and accepting and welcoming of blessings that want to come in. I feel like there's a part of you that may be so afraid of opening up to these blessings, or afraid of not being good enough. But I think what you may realize is the more you open up to these blessings, or the more you embrace the idea that these blessings could come from anywhere. You know, that right person could be just around the corner, or that new best friend could be, you know, just one hello away. Like, the idea that serendipity and magic can happen at any point in time in your life, and even during the challenging times, knowing that exists, whether you have to cultivate it on your own or you're able to cultivate it with other people. I feel like that's just going to keep you in a state that's more grounded, more at peace, and more balanced, because the biggest thing that you're really being called to embrace right now is the fact that you are unbalanced, and the fact that things are a little bit chaotic. And rather than beating yourself up and shaming yourself for that, recognizing that these changes that you're being called to make are not because you have to, otherwise you're going to be in trouble. It's because you deserve to feel better. You deserve to feel more fulfilled. You deserve to feel more balanced, and you deserve to feel more at peace. The fact that we have this tranquility card here, a lot of your stress and anxiety, or just things that you ruminate about, could stem from a lack of balance, either in your career life or a lack of balance in terms of prioritizing like personal time with work time, or prioritizing like your own needs versus the needs of others. I feel like there's a lot of ways in which you could be unbalanced, and I would challenge you not to look at balance as a state of 50-50, but rather whatever balance that works for you. You know, you may not need 50% work, 50% play. You might need 80% work, 20% play, or you might need 80% play, 20% work, which is like so fair, bestie. I get that. So I think it's ultimately about looking at where you feel like you're not progressing, and where you feel like what areas of your life need more time and attention and need more love specifically. Like, I feel like there's a part of you, one part of you that I think you are meant to embrace is the part of you that you have been allowing to run amok, that is deluding you into thinking you won't be successful or that you will fail, which is kind of ironic because it already seems like you've achieved a level of success. But with the 7 of Cups in reverse here, the vibe that I'm getting is that you're very good at deluding yourself and having these distorted ideas of, you know, you're not going to make it, or you might fail, or ruminating on past experiences that were painful, or almost just getting yourself stuck in this state of like analysis paralysis or brain fog, where you don't really know what you want for yourself, and you maybe place like emotional stakes into finding the thing that works best for you. Or you might even like be feeling really good, and then all of a sudden like your energy changes, your emotions change, and you just get really afraid of messing up. No matter what, I feel like what you're being called to embrace is the fact that at times your perception is not reality, and that you don't have to let this element of you run amok. I feel like when this happens, where there may be a part of you that kind of runs away from yourself, whether it's because you're overwhelmed, or you're anxious, or you're really struggling mentally or emotionally, you could have the tendency to use like substances, or use any really like maladaptive coping mechanisms to like deflect and distract from the parts of yourself that need healing, from the parts of yourself that need attended to. And I think that because you're using those maladaptive coping mechanisms, you know, you're shaming yourself for doing that, or beating yourself up, or feeling guilty for resorting to those. And it's leading to this cycle that doesn't really seem to end, where you may be feeling good for a little bit, but then you fall back into old patterns, and then you may beat yourself up for that, and then you feel guilty for beating yourself up, and then you just don't even want to deal with yourself. So then you like do something that, you know, makes you feel better in the short term, but in the long term makes you feel like crap. And it's just kind of this cycle. And so I think one thing that Spirit is really asking you to embrace is your discomfort, and any discomfort that you have that causes you to want to lean in to things that help you escape, or lean into maladaptive coping mechanisms. Because I think this addressing this specifically is not only going to help you be more balanced and more successful in terms of accomplishing your goals, in terms of feeling more grounded, in terms of recognizing your own accomplishments, but also you're going to feel more at peace, because rather than feeling this sense of uncertainty, or this like dread of like, I don't know what I need to do, or I'm avoiding this, or this isn't working, instead, whenever you have those feelings of discomfort, instead of running away from them, you can sit with them and see what they're trying to tell you, and see, okay, are there any changes that I need to make? Am I just feeling ungrounded? Do I need to take time to recenter myself? Like, just learning to recognize that the more challenging and uncomfortable aspects of yourself are not aspects that you should be ashamed of or try to run away from, but instead they're aspects of self that need your attention and need your love and care. So embracing the idea that there are parts of you that you will have to, that whether you address them or not, are operating, and what you don't recognize consciously is going to continue to rule you unconsciously. So I really feel like you're being encouraged to face your fears, your wounds, and things like that head on that are really keeping you stuck in certain patterns that you don't want to be in anymore. Because the more you embrace that, the more you'll embrace the discomfort of doing hard things, of putting yourself in uncomfortable positions, of taking risks, putting yourself out there, different things like that. And also it will be easier for you to keep a level head when you are having like a particularly emotional day, or you are having like a difficult day, like mental health wise, having that space of positivity, or at the very least neutrality, to ground you and bring you back to center, I think will be very useful, and also just help you feel more empowered, so that when you do have challenges, or you do have parts of self that need love or need healing, it's not as overwhelming, and it's not as big of a problem, because you're not running away from it and you're not avoiding it. You're treating it as you see it, and that is just going to help you not only accomplish more, but you're going to be less inhibited by the maladaptive coping mechanisms that you use to avoid the parts of yourself you don't want to look at, which in turn is going to keep you more balanced and keep you more in line with your goals, and you're going to feel like you're almost like falling off the wagon less. But then with the Eight of Pentacles in reverse and Gratitude upright, I think one part of yourself that you're meant to embrace as well is how hard you work. And to have one, for a lot of you, maybe what you do is like unique and you don't get to do it very often. I feel like, or not if you don't get to do it very often, or not many people get to do your job, or you have a very unique job. Maybe you've been dealing with like imposter syndrome, or you've been avoiding aspects of your job because you've been afraid, or maybe you just haven't been working on yourself or working on the things you need to focus on, whether they are career oriented or not. And it's keeping you in this like lack mentality of like, I'm not doing things right, or I suck, or what if I lose everything, or what if this hard work is all for nothing? And I think the universe is really asking you to take a step back and realize that whatever you're doing, especially if you enjoy it, that's something to be grateful for. The fact that you're like making a living out of it is something that you should use to argue your imposter syndrome with, which I get. I have imposter syndrome too. I think it's very normal. And, I think rather than allowing that to be the narrative, when I get imposter syndrome and stuff like that, I remind myself how lucky I am to even be able to do this in the first place, and remind myself that, I'm not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but I'm certainly grateful to be yours. And like, I'm certainly grateful to be able to do what I do and connect with you guys and do something that's meaningful to me. And I think if you love what you do, or at the very least you love what you do, but you struggle with like feeling confident in it, or you struggle with embracing it, I think you're really being encouraged to embrace whatever you do, especially if it brings you joy. And if it doesn't, I think the universe is asking you to take a step back and look at, is there something that you could be doing that would bring more gratitude to your life, that would make you feel better, that would make you happier? No matter what, though, I really feel like you're being called to embrace the fact that you're going to be most productive when you're not shaming yourself, when you're not doing things because you need to, or you should, or because there's something bad, but rather making changes because I want to grow in this aspect, or I want to improve this element of myself, or I want to support myself better. I feel like you're being encouraged to set goals rather from a place of like ego, where it may be like, I want to lose 5 pounds in 2 weeks, or I want to gain this many followers on this platform. Maybe instead changing like your goals to, I want to feel more energized and lighter in the food that I eat, or I want to focus on making sure that like my diet is more plant-based, or more aligned with like the foods I want to eat, or a goal could be like, I want my routines to support the person I'm becoming, or I want to be more firm and strict in my boundaries so that I can make sure I'm taking enough time for myself. I think too, if you're overworking yourself, or if you give from a place of depletion, I think you're really being called to fill up your cup and stop and feel how good it is to feel that good before you start building yourself up more and giving more of yourself to others. Because I definitely think that there is a part of you that is either trying to keep yourself like in a smaller box, or there's just a part of you that is afraid to like fully go for it and fully work on yourself or make those changes, either out of fear of change, out of fear of making those changes, or fear of failing, whatever it may be. But ultimately, I think that like what you're meant to embrace is that you can put anything you set your mind to. And I think that's exactly what scares you, is like, yeah, I can do anything I set my mind to. Either what do I want to do, or What if I manifest the wrong thing? And I think you're really just being called to trust yourself, and with this Temperance in reverse, to be more patient and to spend more time grounding and planning and being more methodical with the things that are under your control, because you might find that you're able to, one, be more balanced and find more peace, but also I think as well it will help you be open to more possibilities. I feel like one thing that you need to embrace is that you don't know where your future could lead you, and that there's a multitude of different ways you could evolve, grow, or change as a person. And I think the more that you give yourself room to just be open to new possibilities, open to doing things differently, and open to seeing the good and the value that you bring to things, the value that you have, like, I think the easier it will be for you to let go of the need to like be tunnel visioned on like one certain outcome for your life, or tunnel visioned on one certain way of doing things. And instead you can grow and evolve and try things in a different way. But ultimately, I feel like you're really just being called to recognize that you don't deserve to be in like survival mode or fight or flight all the time. You deserve to feel good. You deserve to feel good about your work. You deserve to feel good about who you are, and you deserve to have connections that are mutually uplifting, that not only recognize your value, but you are able to do the same, and they're that backbone of support for you when you are struggling or you are dealing with discomfort, where, you know, even if you are having a hard time, it's like either you have those things that bring you clarity or those people that bring you clarity, and you can embrace that clarity from outside of you in a way that's not unhealthy, but rather just very genuine and very like, it's coming from a place of love. So it's not going to distort your vision, especially if you are centered within yourself, because even if someone, like for example, someone you love has some guidance that it doesn't work for you, like you'll feel it and you'll know it. And even that suggestion might be enough for you to kind of, regroup and decide like, okay, what is actually going to work for me? What is actually aligned with me? Does that make sense? So now I am going to use this tiny little deck to clarify the cards that we've pulled. So Spirit, would you like to clarify the Six of Wands? Yes, we have surrender. Surrender your need to control the outcome. Just be with life in this present moment. So yeah, I definitely think you're being called to let go of what other people think of you, or like what other people's definitions of success are, and to look more at that definition for yourself. And also I think that like you're being called to look at the motive and the intent behind why you do things, and ask yourself, you know, are you doing things for validation? Are you doing things for approval? Or are you doing them because you love them? Are you doing them because they make you feel good? Are you doing them because, you know, they fulfill you in some way? I definitely think you're being asked to surrender what doesn't uplift you and make you feel good about yourself, or what you do because you think you should, or what you do just to receive validation. Those are definitely things that are maybe stopping you from feeling more confident in who you are, or confident in your purpose. And I think that by letting go of those things, you'll be able to create with more integrity, and also create from a place of your heart space. And so it won't matter what the reception is, it won't matter what other people think. When you create from a place of love, you know, really nobody can tell you nothing. But let's see, can you clarify the Ten of Cups, please? We have Earth Guide. Your sacred calling upon this planet is to simply love and be loved. Yeah, and I love this because actually the two people in here are like mountains. So I really do think that you are being called to recognize that if the people, if you do not have these sorts of people in your life, they are coming, and to be focused on that, and focus on making a life that gives space and room for that. So if you do have those people in your life, you know, how can you prioritize time with them, or how can you prioritize connecting with them? How can you prioritize meaningful experiences, or how can you reprioritize your life to make it so that you are giving room and space to love and be loved? Because I think part of you needs to embrace the fact that you are not able, you can't just be this hyper independent individual that doesn't need anyone. Like, that's not healthy, and it's unbalanced, and also it's robbing you of the opportunity to connect with people in the 3D realm and to have that sense of support. So I definitely think that you are being called to spend more time with the people that you love, and embrace the fact that you have loving connections, or that these loving connections are coming, so that when they do come, you don't self-sabotage, or you don't push them away out of fear of not being good enough, because I promise you are. What about the Seven of Cups in reverse? We have stillness. Reflect on this moment with love, kindness, and compassion. So yeah, I definitely think that when you are feeling uncomfortable, or you are really struggling with, you know, your emotional realm or your inner realms, that's when you're really being called to sit with it and be still and not act, and just kind of observe what's going on. And also tell yourself when that happens, like, I'm not going to shame myself, I'm not going to guilt myself, and I'm not going to tell myself how I need to respond to this. I'm going to give myself space to observe. And then as you're observing whatever uncomfortable feelings going on, you know, ask yourself, what would I typically do to resolve this? And does that help me? Yes or no? And what could I do to resolve this that I've never tried before that might bring me closer to my goal, or that might be healthier or more aligned with me? I think it's just all about being willing to be present and be more patient with yourself and be more open to like taking risks and trying different things, rather than, you know, getting stuck in this like, oh, I'll never be able to change it, or, you know, just acting on impulse. Being aware of the impulse in the first place, I think, could be very empowering. What about this Eight of Pentacles in reverse, Spirit? We have dreams. The universe speaks to you through your dreams. And I think what Spirit is really saying here as well is like, you know, if you're trying to get the job of your dreams or manifest that, like, don't think that that is beyond the realm of possibility. If you're already doing something that is like a dream job for you, pay attention to your dreams, because maybe you're getting inspiration in your dreams. But I also think as well, if you're feeling particularly uninspired by your career right now, but it's, you know, where you want to be or what you know you want to be doing, I think you're being encouraged to dream bigger, or ask yourself how you can expand, or how you could include more things of meaning into it, or something like that. But on the bottom of the deck, we have fruition. Rest assured, your dreams and visions will come to fruition, which I think is beautiful and I think is so true. Like, I feel like rather than, the only way that you can't reach your goals and be successful is if you spend all your time worrying that you're gonna fail and make that happen for yourself to the point where you don't take action. You know what I mean? But I'm gonna go ahead and pull some channeled messages from your spirit guides, higher self, angels, ascended masters, the universe, whatever you believe in that is unconditionally loving. I'm just going to say spirit guides or spirit. So spirit, what would you like pile 2 to know at this time, please? You have a compassionate, giving nature that is always putting others before yourself to help as much as you can. Make sure that you are not overextending your energy to the point where you are not giving that love, compassion to yourself. Balance is key. Yeah, especially if you've been like overexerting yourself through your job, or just in general, like if you've been overexerting yourself to appease others, I feel like you're really being called to take a step back and nurture yourself. What else though, Spirit? Find the luxury in the small things and the big things in life. Allow yourself to feel proud of your accomplishments and successes, and the abundance that follows you, and the abundance that follows. You are deserving of the rewards coming towards you. Yeah, and I feel like there's only more coming, and Spirit wants you to be open to it, and also to not miss out on blessings because you're afraid to create, or you're afraid to set things in motion. Like, your action is just as important as the universe is. But we also have, sometimes we need to do something differently to have a different result. Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a new result isn't successful. Find the solution to the problem by changing your tactic or approach. Absolutely. Let's see one more. You are meant to be a teacher and a leader. You may have something valuable to share. Whatever inspiration is running through you, there's something in it that others need to hear. Share your voice. And on the back of the deck, yes, we have patience is required in your life right now. You may be finding that progress is very slow, or your desires seem to never manifest. This is about divine timing. There are fated changes ahead, but now is not the time yet. So yeah, I feel like you're really being encouraged to deal with the things that get in the way, so that when it's time for you to act, when it is time for you to do something bigger, you're ready. But we're going to go ahead and finish this reading off with some final guidance. So to start, we have Archangel Bakbi. It is time to fly. Listen to your intuition. And we did have a lot of air energy here. So I definitely think a regeneration of like the mental body and a more positive mindset could do, or neutral, whatever you're most comfortable with, could do a lot of wonders. But we also have Council of Light, Divine Orchestration, Helpers in the Subtle Realms. Yeah, so you're definitely being supported, not only by like your guides, but by the universe. I definitely think that there is a lot working in your favor that wants you to believe in yourself, because like the only person that can stop you is you. Your own worst enemy is you. And I feel like you're really being guided, and you can trust the guidance that you're being given, and you can trust yourself to make the changes and do the things that need to be done in order to get where you need to be. But we also have, when nothing seems right, all I can rely on is that I'm alive. So everything is quite all right. And I think that is the thing to remember too, is that you are alive and that you are human. And when you catch yourself placing unrealistic expectations on yourself, or placing expectations that you should be able to do XYZ, or falling into this perfectionist mindset, taking a step back and recognizing that you're human and output in general is better than nothing. But we also have the theme of evolution with the trigger statement of things will never change. And the true statement is, I attract only what is for my highest good. The imbalances and relationships that have been keeping you down are no longer needed. You are ready to transform. So yeah, I feel like this is already happening. Like, this process is already happening. All you really need to do is just believe in yourself and go with the flow and trust whatever insights you get in terms of like changes you need to make or things that would be most aligned with you. I really think that you're really just like overthinking this. And the best thing that you can do is just be more intuitive about things and trust yourself and trust what feels right. And, you know, just don't judge yourself. Don't hold yourself to like unrealistic expectations, or hold yourself to standards that you wouldn't hold other people to, you know, be fair to yourself. But finally, we have surrender to complete healing, which I think is totally this 10 of Cups card. Open to the fully loving, compassionate forces of the universe that support your physical, emotional, and spiritual healing, which is so true and so beautiful. So pile 2, that is where I'm going to leave this reading. Thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you so much for letting my ads play in the background while you do something else, because that is one of the simplest and easiest ways to show support for me and appreciation for what I do. But if you'd like to do that in other ways, you can like this video, you can comment down below, let me know how it resonates, subscribe if you haven't already, and click that little notification bell to be notified whenever I upload a new reading. Shout out to my notification squad if you want me to see your comment. I usually see comments when I first upload. You can also check out my candles. Be sure to use code ASO10 for 10% off, as well as my merch and my social media. But that's all I have for you guys. So thank you so much for watching and for being here. I hope this reading helped, and I really hope that you can find more value in the person that you are and be just more of a badass. But yeah, I don't know how I was going to finish this, but thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you all have a wonderful day or night whenever it is that you're watching this video, and I hope you'll come back and see me again soon. Bye! Hi there, pile 3. Welcome to your reading, and thank you so much for being here. If you guys chose the Ember and Aura Tarot and the Rose Oracle, then this is going to be your reading on how to find more wholeness within yourself. So if you want a full breakdown of the reading, there is one in the intro, but just to kind of quickly re-summarize, what I'm going to be doing is shuffling your tarot cards, and those are going to represent the aspects of self that you're being asked to embrace. And so if the card comes out upright, then that means that this aspect is either something that you're consciously aware of or an aspect that you would deem positive. And then if it comes out reversed, it either means it's an aspect you're not aware of or it's an aspect of yourself that you would deem as negative. Doesn't make either of these attributes positive or negative. I just made it my intention that like the direction of the cards gives me an idea of your perception of that attribute. So if the tarot part does not resonate, then this reading is not for you, and I would try a different pile. But thank you for being here. I'm so grateful to read for you. So let's go ahead and start. Pile 3, Spirit. Gosh, everything is like shaking so badly, like more than usual. I hope you're all right. Okay. What aspects of self, sorry, does pile 3 need to embrace? The Emperor in reverse, okay? Excuse me. Oh my goodness. Okay, I need to take some water. Let's see. What else? We have the Fool in reverse. Oh my gosh. So it seems like there's some sort of truth or something you guys are not like integrating, like, because my throat was completely fine, and I was gonna say something really inappropriate. I'm not. But like it does almost seem like there's something you're not saying to yourself, or maybe something that you have yet to express. Let's see. Okay, so we have the Queen of Pentacles in reverse. And by the way, don't get freaked out by reversals. Reversals are not a bad thing. Like I said, there's no such thing as positive and negative. It's really our own perception, but it's just to give me information. And we have the Queen of Swords, which is interesting. Bottom of the deck is the King of Pentacles. Very interesting. Okay. So now I'm going to use the Rose Oracle that you guys chose. to clarify why these aspects of self need to be embraced. But I'm kind of getting right off the bat that there's definitely like a power struggle going on. And I really don't think it could be manifesting externally towards you, and there could be a power struggle with someone in your life. But I think the biggest power struggle right now that you're dealing with is you versus yourself. And I think that like one of the hardest elements about this is that like, I feel like there's a part of you that genuinely wants to change, and it seems like all of you is on board, but I do think that there is a subconscious part of you that either you're not consciously aware of, or that you're fearful of, or that makes you feel fearful in general of change. But there's definitely some like self-sabotaging here, and you may not even understand where it comes from, or you may get frustrated, because I can definitely see like if you chose this path, you've definitely done work on yourself, whether consciously or not. But it's like something's not clicking. So let's see what that is. Why should pile 3 clarify the Emperor in reverse, please? Why should pile 3? We have morning dew, clarity, a fresh start, positive outlook. Why should pile 3 why should pile 3 clarify the Fool? You shouldn't clarify the Fool. I should clarify the Fool. Why should pile 3 embrace the Fool in reverse? We have the Thorn, protection, boundaries, clear communication. For the Queen of Pentacles in reverse, we have the Great Mother, surrender to the mystery, fall into her arms. What about the Queen of Swords? We have Sub Rosa, hidden in plain sight, mysteries, learning and teaching. And on the back of the deck, we have Rose without thorns. You have a right to your joy, peace, sweetness of life. Okay, so this is really interesting, and this is one of those situations like where reading collectively can get kind of frustrating, because the semantics of your situations may be different, and there are certain situations that I might talk about that might be kind of uncomfortable, that I honestly feel like I don't really have like the qualifications to be talking about them, so I may point them out, but I may not have very like helpful guidance with that. It's maybe more so like you might have to look into the guidance for that yourself if that resonates. But one thing that I'm definitely embracing or seeing here that you have to embrace, well, I don't want to tell you to embrace anything, because I feel like some of the things that are coming through are like deeply layered, complex issues. Like, for example, in this pile, I'm seeing that there's definitely a mother wound of some kind that I think you're dealing with, and that you could even have a positive relationship with your own mother. But even in that case, it seems like there's a mother wound that may honestly go beyond your lifetime. Like, it may be something that's soul deep. But I definitely think that there is a huge part of you that is either avoided when it comes, like, maybe you're uncomfortable with receiving in general, or receiving like nurturing from others, or receiving support from others. There could be a level of hyper independence with you where you like to do everything yourself, or at the very least you feel like you have to do everything yourself, because if you don't, then like other people aren't going to step up, or they're not going to do it right. I can definitely see here that I think one of your issues stems from the fact that you might find safety in having control over things and over elements of your life. And it seems like that can cause you at times to get stuck into certain ruts, because you are like trying to remain in control over your circumstances. And it seems like at times when you don't know how to control something in your life, like you may either like avoid it or ignore it or just pretend like it doesn't exist. But I definitely think here you're being asked to embrace the fact that you have been tightly wound for a really long time, because you deserve to relax and embrace how much you've grown, all the hard work you've done, things like that. So starting with the Emperor in reverse, I definitely think that you may be really beating yourself up for how you've coped from like the challenges and traumas that you, wait, let me rephrase that. I feel like you may be beating yourself up for your life choices, and for how you have coped as a result of really difficult experiences or traumas that you've had in your past. And I definitely feel this sense of like, I don't know if it's like a desire to stay in control because there's a fear of being powerless, or if this feeling of keeping everything under control is a way for you to yourself feel secure. It's a way of like cultivating safety for yourself, maybe. But I think that there is an awareness within you that either your environment needs to change or your outlook and perspective on life needs to change in order to create positive change within your environment, if that makes sense. I definitely think that you are influenced by the fact that you could have had like the people bringing you up could have had very high expectations of you, and they could have been pretty cold and distant. You know, they could have raised you on a sort of conditional love where love was only given if you followed their rules or lived up to their expectations. And I definitely think that may still be an element in your life now, where if you don't live to your own expectations or if you don't meet your own standards, then you feel like you're not worthy of love, or you're not worthy of giving yourself a break, or you might beat yourself up. And then on top of that, it may be also that you have a hard time letting people get close to you because there is an element of you that is just so intensely self-critical and harsh on yourself that the thought of opening yourself up to someone else is like very scary, because not only are you looking at yourself through this distorted lens of what you think is wrong with you, you're also like not giving any room for more realistic feedback because you're afraid to expose those vulnerable parts of yourself. And so I do feel like there is this part of you that feels really lost and feels like you want to break free of a shell or like a casing that just seems to either be like solid rock or impermeable in some way. And I feel like what your guides want you to know is that it's not truly impermeable, it's just your perception. But I do think the frustration of almost not being able to break out of this shell is, I'm like, one thing that I'm hearing is that it could be something like karmic, not in the sense of like, well, you didn't pay it forward in the drive-through line, so you're gonna have like really difficult challenges now, have fun, babe. No, that's not what I mean. Like, karma in of itself is not something that's inherently positive or negative. It's, that's a whole rabbit hole, but point being, I feel like you're just so unfair to yourself and judge yourself so harshly. And I think you even judge yourself for judging yourself harshly. And I think one thing that you need to embrace is the fact that, well, and honestly, I wouldn't say embracing this, but rather accepting this. Which, let's talk about acceptance, because funny enough, I was procrastinating on doing this reading, right? And so I was like, well, I need to do something productive, so I'll just read this book about women with ADHD. And I was looking at acceptance, and I highlighted something about acceptance, and so it might be more useful. I'm going to cover up my writing because that's intimate and you don't need to know about that. But acceptance is not passive, and it is not resignation. It is an ongoing choice to respect yourself and your circumstances in whatever way it presents in this moment. In fact, you don't have to particularly embrace or like your challenges in order to radically accept them. From this courageous place of honoring yourself, you can begin to take new actions from a foundation of empowerment and careful discernment of your unique needs and desires. And it says here, in short, acceptance is the platform upon which construction of change is possible. So with that being said, and I guess if you're interested, this women, if you have ADHD, whether you're a woman or not, it might be beneficial for you. Crap, did I move that? Oh no, it's still there. Anyway, I think this is less about embracing these things and accepting these things. And that's why it's so useful. I was literally just reading that, and I was able to help use that to assist me with the reading, because I think that is maybe where, I think one thing that is holding you back from finding more wholeness in yourself is a lack of acceptance around the ways in which you were raised and the ways in which you were mistreated or harmed or experienced trauma that then created certain patterns of behavior, certain ways of thinking, certain ways of perceiving the world. And I feel like you may really judge yourself harshly for how you've coped with your experiences, and judge yourself harshly for even having those experiences in the first place, even though, it wasn't your fault, or we can't choose who raises us. There's a lot of things we can't choose in life. Things just happen, and it's how we deal with them and how we cope with them and the choices that we make that really determines outcomes here. And I think for you, you may have predetermined outcomes for yourself that you tell yourself without even realizing. And even if you are someone who's been like working on your mindset, for example, you may still deep down subconsciously believe that you're either going to fail, or that you're not worthy of good things, or that you're not going to achieve what you want. And I think there is I feel like in a lot of ways your soul is a little weary. Like you've been through a lot, and I feel this sense of exhaustion. I just want to give you a big hug, and I want you to know that like whatever you've been through and whatever challenges you're experiencing, you know, you didn't deserve them. There's no like karma that said like, oh, you didn't make your bed this morning, so you deserve to deal with extreme trauma. Like that's not the case. But I do think that, you know, one thing that could be very beneficial for you in terms of becoming whole is recognizing that your wounds are just as much a part of you as the elements of you that are easily accepted by you. And your wounds also play an important role in the person that you become, not in the sense that the wounds themselves are important, but how those wounds manifested afterwards and how they affected the way you saw yourself, the way you saw the world, your behavior. That has played a role in the person you've become. And if you're not consciously aware of it, it is going to run you from the background. And I think that there is a part of you that is consciously aware of these things, but I feel like rather than accepting the fact that they're there, or the fact that like the ways in which you may need to adapt, or the ways in which you need to evolve and change, like they may be more unique, or you may have to have more patience with yourself, or you may just have like unique needs that need to be dealt with, and not everyone does, and you may carry shame for that. Or you may just feel like changing in of itself is scary and hard, and you don't even know where to start. And I feel like what you need to accept is that like, one, you can't change your past at all, and even the actions that, you know, you can consciously recognize were your choice to take, like you were still doing the best you could with the knowledge you had at the time that was. And I think one thing that you need to accept and embrace is this idea that your flaws do not directly correlate to your value as a person, and also your output and productivity do not correlate to your worth as a person or your value as a person. And unfortunately, if that's what you were taught, it's very normal for you to believe that, and it's very normal for you to internalize that and even believe it subconsciously, even if you're trying to like rewire your brain. So one thing I think that would be really helpful for you to accept, rather than in this case embrace, is the fact that your experiences, the way you were raised, and the world, the way you were shown the world to be, is not only not helpful to the person you're trying to become now, and not helpful to your worldview, but it's also just, it's not accurate. It's not true to life. It is just unfortunately the direct result of dealing with darkness, of dealing with people dealing with their own darkness, of, you know, just a very flawed world and a very flawed humanity. And I think that accepting the fact that you can't change the past, but that you can have compassion for yourself, and compassion for how far you've come, and compassion for the fact that it hasn't been easy, that, you know, living life with extra challenges like, you know, extreme trauma, PTSD, anxiety, like any mental health issues, any chronic health issues, any physical ailments, like whatever it may be, like any challenges you have, like that's going to make life in general just more challenging. And I feel like you place this expectation on yourself that not only should you be able to go above and beyond in life, but you should also be able to go above and beyond and make it look easy, and it should feel easy too. And I think that's the thing that you need to let go of, because first of all, going above and beyond is not necessarily always a good thing or a virtue, especially if it's at the detriment of your own health and well-being, or if you're doing it to either to try to prove something, or to like, you know, please that perfectionist tendency within yourself. I definitely think that it's not you that needs to change. More so, it's that you need to change how you're looking at your circumstances. You need to change how you have looked at your past. And I feel like you just need to be easier on yourself. That's just like what I feel like. I would not be shocked if the people that raised you were very hard on you, and that criticized you for like the smallest things. And maybe it wasn't even the people that raised you, but like the environment you were in, whether it was like school or something like that. I definitely just think that you've unfortunately experienced a lot of authority figures that have either bullied you or degraded you or made you feel less than, rather than uplift you, support you, and help you grow into the person that you know you can be. I feel like the fact that you haven't given up, and the fact, and even if you have like at times wanted to, like the fact that you're still here is just like a testament to how strong you are. And I don't want to say that as like that's a positive thing. Like I think it sucks that like we even have to be very strong in certain ways like that. But I think one thing that you need to accept is that you can't really change the past here, and ridiculing yourself and shaming yourself for how you've coped, and you know, those emotions are valid, but you have to ask yourself, like, when like to a degree, are you holding on to those emotions? Are those emotions weighing you down? Are you like actively cultivating those emotions by telling yourself the same story? And none of that is to like blame you or anything like that. Like difficult emotions happen all the time, and even when you're healing from things, you're gonna have days where you don't feel great, and you are gonna have days where, you know, your lower mind wins, or you know, the negative parts of yourself just win, and you just gotta go to sleep and hopefully things get better tomorrow, and if not, maybe another sleep will do it. But the point being is, I feel like you may want to look at where you have been allowing the story you've been telling yourself to control the possibility of what you can achieve and the possibility of what's true for you. I feel like accepting the fact that things have been the way that they have been, but you have control in rewriting the narrative, and recognizing that your past does not have to mirror your future. Like I think those things are very helpful. And honestly, I'm gonna be really like real and vulnerable for a second, but like this is a situation where like I honestly feel like an ass sitting here and like describing this to you, because like I haven't walked in your shoes. I don't know your journey, and each of you individually have your own individual journeys, and it's not my place to be like, hey, don't feel guilt and shame for these things, or don't feel this way, or don't hold on to stories about how you were hurt or slighted or victimized in some way. Like I feel like you should be entitled to do whatever you feel is like helpful for you, healing for you. And that's the hard thing, is like I can't sit down with each of you individually and like I feel like these are complex topics with a lot of nuance, and it's hard to be general about situations like this. And so I never want like what I'm saying to come across as like I'm invalidating your pain, or like telling you that you should just get over it, or that like you shouldn't let it still affect you, because like it really does not matter how old you get. Like traumatic things that affect us often can affect us our entire lives. Like it doesn't necessarily mean that we get over them. It just means that we learn how to deal with it better. And sometimes things like we just can't control how they manifest within us, or we just can't control, you know, the powerful visceral feelings that we may feel. And like, especially when these feelings are attached to things like grief, or, you know, like deep pain or other issues, like it's just not always that easy to say, to rewrite that story in your head and not let it be something that like affects you. And so when I'm saying this, I just hope that I'm not coming across as like me telling you to not feel your pain, or to pretend like it's not there, or to, you know, just pretend like there was you yesterday, but now there's you today, and you today is not at all afflicted by a past you. Like, of course, you're going to be affected by your past self. Of course, like that is going to be something that shapes your life and shapes your experiences. But the story in which how those memories shape you moving forward, you do have a say in. And I think that like the point of what I'm trying to say, we're literally only on these first two cards, but it's fine, is paying attention to where you have control over your own narrative, over your own story, and where you can find empowerment in that. So, you know, I'll use myself as an example. I'll put myself on blast as which in a funny way. So when I was like 8 or 9, I peed my pants on the softball field. I was playing second base, and I literally wanted to die. I remember I was so embarrassed. I was pleading to God. I was like, please, God. Like, it was the last inning, and there was one runner on first base, and there was a girl batting, and like we were so close to 3 outs. Like, this was the last out, and I'm like, please, for the love of God, like, please, God, like, please let her strike out. So, because, like, listen, if I had been in the outfield, it wouldn't have been a problem. You know why? Because, like, well, actually, that's not true. You would have been able to tell because I was wearing, like, gray pants. But since second base was on the dirt part, you know, you could see the wet dirt. And so I was just, like, I was dying inside, and I was praying, like, please, God, like, do not let anyone run to second base. And luckily, the good Lord answered my prayers, and that girl was struck out, and I was just, like, embarrassed and, like, grateful that the game was over so that I didn't have to talk about it. But I literally tortured myself for years over the fact that I peed my pants on the softball field once, and, like to the point where it was honestly kind of comical. But, like, that was a thing that I would just cringe in embarrassment about, because of course you would. But it wasn't until, like, a few years ago when I thought about why I peed my pants. Well, first of all, if you've ever watched Billy Madison, peeing your pants is the coolest. And if you haven't watched Billy Madison, that's your sign to watch Billy Madison. But the reason that I did was because I was so afraid of my coach and afraid of him yelling at me and being mad at me for needing to go to the bathroom, that to me, the prospect of holding it till the end of the game, even though I was literally, like, my freaking kidneys were, like, about to burst, like, I had to go so badly, to the point where I literally did pee my pants on the field. Like, I shouldn't feel any shame for that. Like, my coach should. The fact that he created an environment where kids didn't feel safe enough to, like, ask to go to the bathroom and, like, you know, express their needs, like, that's not a problem on me. That's a problem on the coach. Like, and obviously that's not something that can be resolved, but it really helped me rewrite the story in my head once I looked at it from a different perspective. And I realized, you know, it's really sad that the child version of myself was so afraid of being yelled at by a grown man that I chose to pee my pants on a softball field, then asked to go to the bathroom. Like, that situation would not have happened if I had not been so afraid to ask. So my long-winded story to say, you know, it could be very helpful and beneficial for you to look at certain stories that you've been telling yourself, especially if you've been placing all the blame and all the fault on yourself, and ask yourself, really, am I looking at this accurately, or was there some sort of circumstances that contributed to this that had nothing to do with me, but I, you know, maybe acted this way out of fear, whatever it may be. The point of what I'm trying to say is that, you know, there may be stories in your life that you're telling yourself that only contribute to guilt and shame and make it harder for you to want to be vulnerable with yourself and look at yourself more realistically. And the reality of the situation is, I think those are the parts of yourself that need love the most, that need your care and awareness the most. And I think more than anything, embracing these parts of yourself that you may deem broken or unwanted are the very parts of yourself that just need your love and need your awareness and attention, because until they are brought to the surface, they're going to manifest in ways that you may not consciously recognize, but are coming from a subconscious point within you until you notice them. Does that make sense? Nice. Needed 26 minutes to explain the first one. Cool. Okay, let's keep going. So, okay, now we have the Fool in reversed with the Thorn. So, I definitely think that there is a part of you as well that is either afraid of going outside your comfort zone, or it seems like there's definitely a group of you where you may teeter between, like, either taking no risk and never going outside of your comfort zone to taking, like, very impulsive risks, or even, like, dangerous risks to the point where your own safety could be a danger or other people's safety could be in danger. And I think you're being asked to embrace this part of yourself that is a bit chaotic, but recognize where that chaos can get you into trouble. Because with the Fool in reverse here, I think part of the reason you do have this, like, weary soul is that I think that your person is just dying for new experiences and new ways of living and being that you may not even realize you need, because you've been so stuck in your ways. And like I said, that's not something to shame yourself for, but I do think that there is a part of you that has been so focused on keeping yourself safe and feeling safe, even though you may not even be in a situation where you're unsafe anymore, but it's because, you know, you're so wired to look at things that way, that's how you're going to see things. It makes it hard for you to feel safe, to be present, to enjoy things. And at this point, once again, I think it's an element of acceptance rather than, you know, beating yourself up and like me sitting here and just being like, oh, just stop being afraid and just be present. Like, you know, depression, just don't. Anxiety, just don't listen to her, you know, just stop. Like, obviously that's not going to help. But with the Fool card being here in reverse, I definitely think that what could be good for you is change where you have control over the elements so that you can feel safe. Like, so whether that is, you know, try new things with a group so that you feel more comfortable and you're with people that you know, or, you know, making small incremental changes and not going too far out of your comfort zone so that you don't avoid things altogether. I definitely think that there is a part of you that is very all or nothing. And I think you're being encouraged to recognize how that all or nothing tendency is in your life in many different places, and how that may contribute to imbalances within like your health, within your happiness, within your wellness, things like that. So I definitely think you're being called to embrace like the fact that you do have this wonderful spontaneous side that doesn't get to see the light of day very often. And usually the only time it does get the light of day is when you've reached a point, either mentally, emotionally, or physically, where you just need change, or there's like so much frustration or just so much like tension that like you have to do something different. You have to do something like chaotic or out of the box. There's something to just satisfy that urge. And it may cause you to like do things that are more extreme, or do things that are just not that you wouldn't do otherwise if you weren't under a bunch of stress, or if you had like focused on maybe stress management a little bit more. So I think you're just really being encouraged to recognize where your self-destructive tendencies hold you back in terms of creating sustainable change, and also how those tendencies shape the connection you have with yourself. Because if you have the tendency to do impulsive things that you know are not going to turn out well, do you shame yourself for it afterwards? Or do you accept the fact that that happened and keep moving forward? I would say it's more likely that you're probably in the camp that guilts and shames themselves. And first of all, I would say maybe a good boundary to set with yourself is, I am human and I am allowed to make mistakes, and what I will not do is beat myself up further when I've made a mistake. You will feel the consequences of your mistakes because they will happen after you make them. You don't need to add the extra consequence of beating yourself up on top of it. That's like telling yourself to carry a mountain. Well, yeah, it's like telling yourself that you have to carry a 50-pound backpack up a giant mountain. Like, climbing the mountain is hard enough. You don't need the 50-pound backpack of guilt and shame. And so I feel like recognizing where your boundaries are poor, especially with yourself, and accepting the fact that like there are maybe certain habits of yours that you wouldn't want your friends doing them, you wouldn't want the people around you doing them, and the people that love and care about you probably wouldn't want you doing them either. So, you know, at the very least, being open and honest with yourself about what patterns of behavior are not working or are just not contributing to you feeling the best about yourself. I feel like accepting those aspects of self and accepting the fact that like there could be healthier, better ways to meet these needs, I think those could be wonderful conversations to have with yourself, and they would help you feel closer to yourself. Because even if you don't always make the best choice when it comes to supporting yourself, at least you got options. And you know, if you sometimes just want to be chaos and make the decision that isn't the best, why the hell not? This is life. Like, I'm literally hearing young, wild, and free in my head. And I think there is a part of you that needs to embrace that. And, you know, for some of you, it may be that, like, maybe you do need to go a little bit more wild more often and have a little bit more fun. But maybe even when you do try to have fun, you don't allow yourself to have fun. Like, for example, maybe some of you are like the parent friend of the group where you're always taking care of everyone else, or you can't even, or you have trouble, like, you know, being present in the moment because you may just be ruminating on what needs to happen, or you may not feel safe in an environment, or you may just feel uncomfortable around certain people. I think you're just really being asked to look at what stops you from being present, what factors make you feel unsafe. Because ultimately, I think one thing that you need to accept about yourself is that, like, one, you're not going to be liked by everyone, and that's okay. I feel like there's a part of you that feels like it's not okay to not be liked by people, but like that's just a natural factor of life. Like, believe it or not, there are people that like don't like me, which is crazy. It must be really hard having bad taste. I'm sure you understand, but we can't help that. People are entitled to their bad taste, and we should allow them to have it. But in your case, you know, you can't control the fact that some people aren't going to understand you. Some people aren't going to like you. Some people are going to find your needs weird or just not understand you. And those are people that you don't need in your life. And I think that also, you know, if you have this attitude of going along to get along, it may be time to kind of look at how that puts you in harm's way, or how that leaves you vulnerable and stuck in scenarios that you're either not comfortable with or that make it challenging for you to be present. Like, I feel like you're really just being encouraged to look at where you're not cool with things, or look at where, you know, it would be helpful for you to communicate to the people around you, like, what you need. Like, for example, I don't know if anyone else, like, has this thing, but, like, if I make plans with someone, I emotionally prepared to hang out with them. And sometimes I'll have friends that will be like, oh, I invited so-and-so to come with us. And for the record, like, whenever that happens, I'm not like upset or like I can't believe you invite someone else. I'm always like, oh, okay, like there's someone else coming. Like, I'm usually cool with it, and it usually turns out to be like fun and I have a nice time. But there is a part of me that's always like slightly agitated because I wasn't like prepared for that. And also I like to be with people more like one-on-one, so like, you know, there's more of a conversation. But you know, I never said to them, hey, can we make sure that, like, it's just you and I? Like, I would really appreciate just having, like, one time. Like, I'm not going to get mad at someone for doing that. And I'm also, like, not going to, like, you know, just throw away the whole opportunity to hang out because of that. But, you know, if I really wanted to make sure that I was having one-on-one time with a friend, I could always say, hey, you know, can we just make this hangout, like, just you and me? Like, I really want to talk or whatever. So in that case, I'm just curious if other people have that, because sometimes I feel like kind of a dick for even feeling that way. But yeah, I don't know, maybe it's an introvert thing or an energy sensitivity thing. I don't know, let me know. But with that Fool in reverse being here, I really just do think that there is a part of you that, like, you could be doing a better job at advocating for yourself and advocating for your needs. And I think that there is a part of you that knows when you're like doing things that are self-betrayal. Like, for example, you know, agreeing to a situation that you really don't want to be in, or doing something because you think you should, even though you're really only doing it to appease someone else or appease your own ego. And in reality, you need rest or you need something else. Like, I really do think that you need to accept the fact that you're not being your own best friend and you're not being your own best advocate right now. And that is making it more challenging for you to make the decisions that are, and be confident enough to make the decisions that are aligned with your highest good. Because if you can't even be honest with people about what you need, how can you be honest about that with yourself when no one's watching? So I definitely think that you're being asked to be more selfish and to be more unapologetic when it comes to the needs that you do have. And obviously, like, social pressure is a thing and it's hard. But would you rather deal with the consequences of following, like, whatever social pressure you may be dealing with? Or would you rather deal with the consequences of some people judging you or misunderstanding you for asserting your boundaries and not putting yourself in a situation that could be harmful or unwanted in the first place? Does that make sense? So also, moving forward, I was wondering if this had something to do with, like, a mother wound. And then we had the Great Mother come out. So I think there is a part of you as well, whatever your relationship is to a motherly figure in your life, someone with feminine energy. I feel like for a lot of you, there could definitely be some frustration and some resistance, or not resistance, resentment or anger towards a motherly figure in your life. And if that's the case, first of all, I just, like, want to say, like, anything that I say here, like, I'm not telling you how to feel about certain things. Like, this might be a little bit more of a difficult conversation to talk about, but I do feel like there is some sort of wound, like, you grieve a type of mother you never had. And I feel like that is something that plays into a lot of elements in your life where you maybe don't realize it, but it's almost like you don't even feel comfortable giving certain aspects of nurturing to yourself because you never experienced them. And I think there's a part of you that deeply yearns for that. But even if you got it, you wouldn't know how to receive it. And so it's almost like this self-sabotaging cycle. And I think there is a part of you that is deeply resistant to being more open with yourself and being more nurturing with yourself and accepting and receiving assistance, nurturing, and help from others that may root from childhood. I definitely think also there is a part of you that just feels a lot of frustration and anger at like your situation with your mother, whatever that may be. And for some of you, you know, if you do have a relationship with them, if they're still on this planet, part of your acceptance and I guess like I should say, just for the record, at this point I don't think any of these things are things you just need to embrace, but rather things to accept, because we looked at that definition of acceptance and use that to move forward. Because I feel like a lot of, if I could summarize the energy of this pile, a lot of it is a denial of what is, out of fear that accepting that reality means something about your value or means something about your worth as a person, which it does not. You are worthy of all the good things and all the love because you exist, because you're a human with a beating heart, unless aliens have somehow figured out how to watch YouTube, which in that case, I don't know what body parts you got working with, but I'm happy you're here. Anyway, with that Queen of Pentacles in reverse, I definitely think that there is a part of you that maybe subconsciously envies people that have like positive relationships with a mother figure, or this could even too extend to like if you want children yourself or have children yourself and you find it hard, like maybe you're repeating like your own parents' patterns, or maybe you really desire to have a child and like that's not happening for you right now and you might be beating yourself up. That is another subject that I don't know a whole lot about, but what I do think in this case, like acceptance could probably be a useful thing, but also like to not beat yourself up about that at all. Like, man, the way that society deals with like mothers and like motherhood in general is like, there's a lot of stuff we got to work on there. But one thing I do know is that you do not deserve to be beating yourself up. The human body is a vast mystery and we don't always understand it. But I guess if you are in the category of people that, you know, really want a child and are struggling, like my prayers are with you and I'm sending you so much love. And I really hope that everything works out in the best way possible for you. But I do think that, you know, if you are finding it difficult to feel good about yourself because you're struggling with this, I definitely think that awareness of that fact and awareness of the fact that while like the situation, you know, is not where you want it to be, it doesn't help you to beat yourself up on top of it, and especially for something that's like not your fault. Like human bodies, like I said, are complex and insane and we don't always understand them. But for the vast majority of you, I do feel like there is just a lot of wounds here around like your feminine side, around allowing yourself to rest, allowing yourself to be nurtured, feeling comfortable receiving assistance, feeling comfortable being vulnerable. And I think one thing you're actually being asked is to be open to the idea that for some of you, like unfortunately, a lot of your experiences with your mother figure could have taught you what is not useful in a mother and what you don't want in life. And I'm so sorry if that has been the case. But I think in terms of healing those wounds, I think the universe wants to pose an idea to you, one, that you don't even need to look at those wounds as wounds needing to be healed like forever, or as wounds that will just easily be healed. You know, parents play or whoever raises us plays such a significant role in our development and how we see the world. And you may very well feel resentment, anger, frustration, whatever, towards a parent figure for your entire life. And that's okay. You don't need to justify that or like invalidate it in any way. But if you find that because of that, it's hard for you to embrace the idea of like positive, loving, like connections between mother and child, or just you might find it hard to face the wounds, your own wounds around like your upbringing and things like that, if from a mother figure, whatever it may be. Like, I feel like acceptance of that and acceptance of the fact that like it is uncomfortable to explore for you, or that you do have a lot of complex emotions around it, and accepting that and not judging yourself for it, or, you know, and like screw anyone that is like, oh, but they're your father, they're your mother, they're this, you should love them. Like, you know, none of us like we're not walking in each other's shoes. And, you know, we can't choose our biological family, and a lot of us probably would not choose the circumstances that we were in. And so I feel like one thing the universe is kind of asking for you is to accept the fact that, like, your parent figures may have fallen short, and that was not a reflection of you. And, like, it's okay to feel so many types of ways about that, and acceptance of that, I think, could be very important, because more than anything, I think the last thing that you need when you are feeling particularly hurt, or just, you know, dealing with a lot of emotions around your upbringing or around the way you were treated as a child, like, those are complex emotions to have in the first place. But ignoring them or pretending like they don't exist, or just telling yourself that you should be over it by now, is not really going to do anything to fix the problem. It's like trying to fix a cracked sidewalk with duct tape. Like, it's probably not going to do a whole lot. But I think what the universe is almost asking you to look at is if you could project the idea of, you know, the type of mother you always wanted, or the type of father you always wanted, because there is mother and father energy here, the types of parental figures you always wanted, and rather like projecting them onto like a human flawed person, instead projecting them onto the idea of like Mother Earth and Father Sky, or a deeper belief in something bigger than you. You know, the fact that we have the Great Mother here, surrender to the mystery, fall in her arms, you know, instead of like finding solace in things like nature, you know, like there are many principles of feminine and masculine energy just within nature. And I almost feel like you're being asked to maybe look at how you could heal certain wounds by connecting with forms of that feminine motherly energy that do not necessarily require you to interact with like a biological parent. Does that make sense? That's kind of where I was trying to get with that. That might be something that is especially healing towards you. And I also think inner child healing in general, and like paying attention to when your inner child is triggered, I think could be really helpful, because I have found that like a lot of my triggers do stem from childhood, and I don't realize it until I take the time to pinpoint where the trigger is inside of me. And once I'm able to address that part of myself, a lot of the discomfort and frustration usually subsides. But I think you're also being asked to just embrace the fact that like life is messy, and that you're not always going to know where you're headed. And, you know, we're given the cards that we're dealt with, and some people have better experiences than others, and it's not our job to understand it. It's not our job to judge each other. It's not our job to judge ourselves. It's just kind of, it is what it is. And ultimately after that, it is whatever meaning and stories we place upon it. And so I think one thing that you're being called to embrace is the idea that you probably will never have all the answers for why you are the way you are, and why things have happened the way that they have, and things like that. But that's part of the mystery. And a lot of that knowledge of why you are the way that you are and where you've been and things like that don't necessarily have to determine your ability to change or evolve or succeed, even though pretty much I've spent the majority of the reading talking about how that will affect you. But I think what you're being asked to do is accept the idea that you may not have the answers for everything, and don't allow the desire to have answers to everything be a requirement for you to make progress and move forward in your life. Because first of all, you're going to find a lot of answers as you just move forward in life, as you make progress. But also, you know, there are just certain things that we don't get answers to, and that's okay. We're not meant to know everything. Like, trying to understand the universe would be like trying to fit the entire ocean in a teacup. It's just not going to happen. Like, you know, if you have a little bug on your hand, explain consciousness to that bug. It's probably not going to understand you. But if it does, keep it. You might make a lot of money. Anyway, let's move on now to the Queen of Swords and Sub Rosa. So, one element of yourself that you need to embrace more is your brilliance. And I definitely can see why this reading would take the longest, because this is definitely my group that lives in their head a lot. And this is also my group that, intellectualizes things, or maybe over-intellectualizes things. You may deeply resonate with the idea of analysis paralysis. But I think one thing you're being called to embrace is the fact that you do have a brilliant mind, and that you do have a lot of value to give to the world. You know that. But when it comes to executing that, you freeze. And I think that's because part of your like comfort zone is in your space of ideas rather than executing those ideas, because the ideas stay perfect when they're not put into form. You know, as soon as you start putting those ideas into form, they might not be as good. You start judging them, you feel afraid. And I feel like those are things that you're meant to embrace as, you know, just part of the creative experience. And anything that is being turned into form, it's not going to be perfect. But I also think you're being encouraged to sit with your own mind more in ways that help you look at yourself more. Not in a way that's critical, but more in just a like, what parts of myself need to be seen? What parts of myself have I been neglecting? Is there anything that like I've been yearning for? Is there anything that's been percolating in my subconscious that I need to be more aware of? I feel like you're really just being called to use the experiences you have had to reflect and find the wisdom from them, but also use the awareness and the healing that you are gaining from this process, and use those tools to rewrite stories from your past in ways that help you feel more empowered without invalidating your feelings around them, without invalidating, you know, the pain or the hardship that you have gone through, but instead honoring the challenges that you've been through, the experiences you've been through, without letting those challenges and experiences be something that is a determining factor of like your ability to enjoy life moving forward, a determining factor of your worth as a human being, things of that nature. I feel like you're really just being called to spend less time distracting yourself and like deflecting from the outside world, or what, deflect, that's not a sentence. Spend less time distracting yourself with the outside world, because I think that there are a lot of things that will easily reveal themselves to you when you pay attention, and it may be just as simple as, you know, giving yourself time for some silence. Like, it's crazy how much of our time and energy is taken up by the things that we need to pay attention to and things like that. And I think you could actually be really masterful in focusing on what you need to do to get done, or productive things, or even just going down rabbit holes that pique your interest. And those can be wonderful things, but I feel like you have a wealth of wisdom within you that's just waiting to be tapped into and looked at. And it's only because you haven't like put it out onto paper or given yourself enough time and space to kind of listen to your inner self that those things aren't happening. But here's the thing. I feel like this pile especially is really wanting to create a life for themselves that's not only financially stable, but also like slower, easier, more relaxing, more nurturing. And that may be the life, the exact opposite of the life that you were brought up in, and the exact opposite of the life that you were raised to anticipate or prepare for. But this is the life that you're meant to live. And what's really interesting is that I think for some of you, this may not resonate for everyone, but for some of you, I do think that you are meant to lead a life that is almost the polar opposite to the life that you were raised in, and like the life that was given to you by your caregivers. And I think that for a lot of you, one of the biggest elements of healing in this lifetime may be becoming that person that you needed, and being that person for other people who need it too. And there might be a lot of frustration and anger in that, in the fact that like, I needed that and I didn't get that. And because you knew you needed that and you didn't get that, you know how painful it is to not have that experience. And I think especially as you evolve and you grow, you're going to realize how meaningful it is that you can provide that for other people and save them that pain and heartache in any way that you can. But I also think one thing that you need to know is that you have an incredible gift when it comes to your connection to the natural world. So if you don't consider yourself a nature person, I think you need to start looking into that, and at the very least just going outside more, because I think you have a deeper connection to the natural world when you realize. And specifically herbalism might be something that some of you want to get into, or just like different like holistic ways of healing. I definitely think you're really being encouraged to embrace the inquisitive part of you and use that inquisitive nature of yourself to explore topics that not only intrigue you, but also like can help you either solve a problem or just essentially using your brain for good. So like, for example, I could have read anything, right? But I was reading that book on women and ADHD because I need to figure out my dang brain and like get more shit done. You know what I mean? So even just like making that choice to read something that was going to help me, which I'm glad I did, because then I was able to help you, right? Like even just like the smallest choices that you make to learn something new or try to change a way you're doing something, or even just having the conscious awareness of what's not working so you have room to go from there. Like, I think really just embracing the fact that you do have a very logical and inquisitive mind, and a scientific mind at that. You can use that to learn yourself rather than criticize yourself, pick yourself apart, and criticize and overanalyze other people's arguments. But ultimately, what you're meant to embrace is a life that's not just thorns, but also the rose. I think that you're meant to embrace a life that is more loving, more calm, more peaceful. And I think that this big issue that we've been talking about is is like accepting those elements of self. I think is going to be the tool that gets you out of this kind of shell or cage that you've been trapped in. And I think the biggest thing is that this shift will come easier and easier as time goes on, the more you work at it, because the more you do it, the more aware you'll be when you are falling back into old patterns, when you are falling back into old brain habits that don't work for you. But also, you will just recognize that it's possible to feel other ways than just being in survival mode and trapped. And you'll recognize how not only do you deserve to feel better, to enjoy the sweetness of life, to enjoy peace, you won't feel held to or bound to other people's lack of peace. You'll recognize that's not your responsibility. It's not your job to be the peacemaker for everyone else. It's not your job to solve other people's problems. And in fact, it does not make you a bad person to live your life and enjoy it while other people suffer, because part of being a human is just suffering, period. It's about how we deal with it and learn from it and grow from it. And you've dealt with your fair share. And I feel like one thing you need to know is that you deserve to feel amazing. And, you know, if you can think about the darkest experiences of your life and the deepest, darkest emotions you've ever felt, know that that is a polarity that you've experienced, and you're meant to experience the other side of that polarity, which is a blissful experience that is so light and so loving that it is just the polar opposite of that darkness. And if you haven't experienced it yet, that's because you're in the process of getting there. And that's one important thing that I always remind myself, because I know what it's like to feel horrible for long spans of time. And the way you get, well, not the way you get out of it, but one of the beautiful realizations is that, you know, when you have the ability to experience life at such dark depths, you also have the ability to experience light at such beautiful highs. And, you know, obviously most of life should be like well within the middle and be generally like peaceful and tranquil, but feeling deeply and intensely is not a bad thing. It can be an incredible thing, but it can also be a very hard thing. And I think I'm just rambling, honestly. I'm talking way more in this pile than I have the other piles. Maybe that's just because I'm comfortable with you, or I don't know, Spirit just has a lot to say today. But I feel like more than anything, like you're being asked to embrace yourself so you can get out of your own way and actually thrive the way you deserve to. So, Spirit, can we clarify the Emperor in reverse? Is there anything else you want to say to that? Intuition. Trust your intuition. It has been guiding you to the answers that you seek. So I would also say the fact that we have morning dew here, I would pay attention to like when you're half asleep. If you get messages when you're half asleep, I do, and I find that they're often very clear. So pay attention to when that happens, but also pay attention to when doing something habitual or something that you usually do, you feel a lot of resistance towards it, and it almost takes like more effort and energy to do that. It's probably a sign your intuition's trying to guide you towards something different or to try something a different way. But also, I think that like by trusting your intuition more, it requires you to let go of control because you're uncertain of the outcome. But I think you'll realize that's what you're needing. With the Fool in reverse, we have gratitude. Universal love shines through the miracles of life all around you. So yeah, I definitely think that this also is really just talking about the fact that it may be very easy for you to focus on more on the negatives and the positives, which is so normal, but also like it's not toxic positivity if you're acknowledging the negatives in spades. Like toxic positivity is only toxic when it doesn't acknowledge reality and it's sweeping issues under the rug, and it's not being real. It's diluting yourself from like reality. You can use negativity to delude yourself from reality just as much as positivity. So I think you're really being called to have a more nuanced take where you allow yourself to feel frustrations and feel negative feelings and feel however you're going to feel, but also balance that out with what you are grateful for, what is going well, you know? Get more balance. But what about the Queen of Pentacles in reverse? And I just heard something as well. Like, I literally just heard in my head, you'll never amount to anything. Which, if someone ever told you that, they are so lucky that I do not know who they are and where they live, because they would have me to deal with. But also, that's just not true. In fact, I think you're meant to amount to a lot. And for a lot of you, you may have already done a lot for yourself. And maybe your care figures look down on you for that or shame you for that, which is so sad, because they'll never get to see how wonderful you are and how hard you've worked. But also, you know, you just need to know that anyone telling you that is how they feel about themselves and has nothing to do with you. But we have observation. Expand your consciousness by observing the divine matrix of life. And I think this observation really goes into this Queen of Swords energy here, because I think the more you observe, not only yourself, but just like the people around you, the more you'll realize like where you've been maybe jumping to conclusions or writing up stories that aren't real. But also, I think the more you observe yourself, the more you'll realize how many habits and patterns that are operating unconsciously within you that are leading to more guilt and shame because you're not proud of them, or they don't make you feel good, or whatever it may be. And like, those parts of you are just waiting to be addressed so that you can thrive and evolve. But let's finish. What else, Spirit? We have release. Release anything that keeps you from your path of authenticity. And yeah, I definitely think in terms of like, I think one big thing that you need to release is the judgments you have on yourself and the memories you have of people judging and shaming you for being different or being who you are growing up. Because like, that's gonna happen. And like I said, I'm not telling you to not feel the feelings that you have around those things. But if you're holding on to those judgments and actively judging yourself by them, or using that as justification for why you're not taking risks or why you're holding back, it's not a good excuse. Awareness of that can be very helpful, and releasing those beliefs can be very helpful so that you can be more authentic and living a life more aligned with you. But let's see what else your guides want you to know. You may be experiencing astral projection or out-of-body sensations. There may be a special message or timeline that you are gathering information or lessons about during these sessions. Journal your experience upon waking. So yeah, that's another sign to pay attention to what's happening in your dreams. And honestly too, maybe like tell your dreams to someone else. I'm so bad at interpreting my own dreams, but like, for example, Kino Tarot, so good at interpreting my dreams, like to the point where it's unreal. So maybe look at someone in your life, like maybe asking for someone to analyze your dreams that you know, like they might be able to help you. Because I think it's helpful too, like I don't think it's very helpful to Google dream interpretations, because it'll be like, if you see this in your dream, dark and horrible things will happen. And it's like, but if you see this in your dream, then you're gonna get $2 tomorrow. And it like just doesn't make any sense. But for someone who knows you and knows your life, they might be better at making connections from like about like symbolism and things like that. I'm really bad at doing it for myself, but with other people it seems to make more sense. We also I think this card's so funny because I'm like telling you guys about silence, and meanwhile I cannot shut the hell up. Silence is the best answer at this time. If someone is waiting for a response, or if you're trying to decide on communication or movement, let things be for now. Sit in silence. Yeah, I definitely think just more observation and more time for silence. Like, stop trying to fill every like gap of free time you have with like stimulation or things like that. Just even that can be very useful. We also have, take a look at your relationship with intimacy, both with yourself and or with a partner. This area of your life may be in need of healing and balancing or attention. Love your body. Yeah, so I definitely think that like a lot of things you are healing, or a lot of things that need healing, are around your ability to receive intimacy, about your ability to be intimate with yourself, about your ability to be vulnerable and intimate with others. And I definitely think a lot of that roots to like childhood trauma, or like with how you were raised or something like that. Doesn't have to be all of it, but I do think that, you know, those wounds may be inhibiting your ability to be more open and receptive to the love other people want to give you. And you deserve to receive that love. You're so lovable. I wouldn't sit here and talk for an hour and 2 minutes. That's so funny. It literally feels like a half an hour. I wouldn't sit here and talk to an hour and 2 minutes if you weren't absolutely worthy of love and you didn't deserve to get to the bottom of these things. Fucking love you, pile 3, and I hope you love yourself too, because you should. And feel free to hype each other up in the comments. I don't know, like type a rose or something. I'll hype you up if I see it. Showing your look, as I said that, showing your vulnerability is a strength, not a weakness. Be expressive with your emotions and don't be afraid to say how you feel. If someone can't return the same to you, that's a reflection of their own fear. Exactly. And that's why I will do things like go on these tangents or go on these rants, because sometimes they are topical, but also I feel guilty for them at the same time, because there are some people that don't want to hear it. And, you know, for some reason I forget I'm the daddy of my own channel and I don't have to care about what other people think. But that is the thing. It is a constant process. As us humans, we learn how to be more of ourselves and not allow the negativity to get to us. But I think in your case, like, it would just be really helpful for you. Like for example, maybe you noticed that I was very rambly or very vulnerable in this, and maybe it either annoyed you or you really liked it. Maybe add some more of that into your life. And if it annoyed you, maybe look at why. Is that because you just want the answers, or you could just be annoyed by me? Like, fair. But yeah, like, I think that you're really just being called to look at how you can be more vulnerable with yourself, because it's going to be really, really hard for you to be vulnerable about the things you need to do in order to grow and improve when you're judging yourself for it. It's like you can't even be real with yourself because you know you're going to judge yourself. You know what I mean? But on the back of the deck, we have, you are meant to be a teacher and a leader. You have something valuable to share. Whatever inspiration is running through you, there is something in it that others need to hear. Share your voice. And you do have a powerful voice. And I do think that powerful voice is meant to be backed up with wisdom, with emotional intelligence, with experience. And I think that's the process that you're going through right now. So we're going to go ahead and finish this reading off with some guidance cards. So to start, we got Archangel Raphael. See with enlightened eyes and open to abundance. So I would definitely pray to Archangel Raphael, especially for healing in your heart space and healing when it comes to how you think about yourself. Of course, you don't have to if you don't believe in this stuff, but you can. I like to argue that even if you don't believe in prayer, you should do it anyway, because, like, Archangel Raphael isn't going to be like, you don't believe in me, I'm not going to answer your prayers. Archangel Raphael does not give a single shit. He will answer 57 trillion of your prayers, even if you don't believe in him, okay? So feel free to ask for help and healing, even if you don't believe in it. I promise it can't hurt. Let's see what else, though. We have align your life. What is not aligned or needs to change? Yeah, this is all about embracing what is not aligned with you anymore so that you can grow and improve. This is not about judging yourself. We also have the third eye chakra with the theme of soothing. The trigger statement is, I need to fix this. And the true statement is, I am willing to learn from this. Lift yourself above your life situation and observe as a witness. Understand that you are so much more than the story. Okay, that's so affirming, because I feel like that's something that's been coming up over and over and over, is like the stories you're telling yourself. Like, though, there's definitely a lot there. And I feel like the more you heal, the more you'll be able to look at those stories from a place of like objectivity, which, I mean, it's hard for us to truly be objective, but like with more self-awareness, we get better, I think. And you can kind of look at where you've been telling stories about your life, and not even necessarily to other people, but just to yourself, and see where maybe that story was created from a place of woundedness. And you can say, okay, I don't feel those same wounds, so instead let me rewrite the story to maybe acknowledge the pain from that experience, but also what I've learned or how I've evolved from that or how I've grown from that. You know what I'm saying? But we also have cleansing with the trigger statement of I will never change. And the true statement is, in each moment, I am a new me. You are supported as you release habits and limiting patterns that are not serving your highest good. Okay, I love when guidance does this, because sometimes I don't know why. I'm just giving you guys all my thoughts today. I get uncomfortable because I'm like, oh, I'm rambling too much, or I'm wasting time, or whatever it may be. And this just feels so good, because I feel like I spent so much time saying, listen, I think you could make some changes that might be helpful. Like, I don't know. I try to ride that fine line between validating challenging experiences, but also challenging you to evolve and challenge those painful experiences and how they've maybe held you back. But yeah, this is just so affirming to me. Like, you deserve to have more. You deserve to go back to basics in a way and really just have this fresh new cycle where you can like recognize like you've been through a lot and you can truly start fresh and anew and come from this point of like acceptance and like make peace with your past to a point where you can feel truly like refreshed and anew. For some of you, I'm hearing, even if it's something you want to do or you've been called to it, maybe getting a haircut could be something like very healing. I know in certain cultures, like there is the belief that like our hair holds memories. I don't know specifically, so if you do know, feel free to comment your knowledge about that. But I did feel called to say, like, if you feel like, you know, maybe like doing something different with your hair or something like that can be very healing, or like decluttering. Even just stuff like that, I think can be very helpful. Making like physical changes that like affirm the changes that you're making internally might be useful. But we also have, I will pay attention to the things that really matter in life. If I don't, I will regret it later in life. Yeah, so I really think you're being called to just pay attention to where your energy is best used and where you may be using it to disempower yourself. And finally, we have surrender to creativity. Let your imagination soar. Stay open to all creative ideas about how to pursue a dream or solve a problem. Yeah, there are literally new solutions being made up every single day. And like there are so many ways to do things. And I think the more you give yourself freedom to just be and explore and observe, the more you will allow that brilliant mind of yours to come up with solutions and new ideas rather than use it to bully yourself, tear yourself down, or keep yourself held back. So I really just hope you embrace the fact that you're fucking awesome and that you need to like let yourself be awesome and experience how awesome it is to just be at peace in life or be at peace with yourself. You deserve to feel all those things. And I think the fact that you've, one, made it through this reading, and two, even align with it, means you're on that path. So pile 3, that is where I'm going to leave this reading. Thank you guys so much for watching, and so much for letting my ads play in the background while you do something else, because that is one of the simplest and easiest ways to support me. But if you'd like to support me in other ways, you can like this video, you can comment down below, let me know how it resonates, and you can subscribe and click that little bell notification to be notified whenever I upload a new reading. You can also check out my candles. I have one. This one's mine. It's almost done. I'm burning my hand. Oh god, that was a bad idea. Those, use code ASO10 for 10% off. That will be linked down below. Any candles on the site, by the way. And I have merch as well as my social media. But that's all I have for you guys. So thank you so much for watching and for being here. I hope you all have a wonderful day or night whenever it is that you're watching this video. And I hope you'll come back and see me again soon. Bye! Hi there, pile 4. Welcome to your reading, and thank you so much for being here. If you guys chose the Outsiders Tarot and the Power of Love Oracle, then this is going to be a reading on how to find more wholeness in yourself. So if you would like a full breakdown of the reading, there is one in the intro. But just to quickly summarize, I'm going to be using the tarot to look at aspects of the self that you should embrace. And actually, I'm going to change that from well, it can be embraced, but in the last reading, the theme was not about embracing aspects, it was about accepting certain aspects of self. So whether it's embracing, accepting, take what resonates there. But with that being said, this tarot deck specifically uses very different names for pretty much everything. If you are a regular on this channel and subscribed, which you should be, thank you to those of you who are. You may know how I feel about tarot decks that change the names of literally everything, but this deck gets a pass for a few reasons. One, it's very creative and well done. It's an indie deck, and I do prefer indie decks, but also the artist was so kind to put all of the, like, what these things mean. So that's easier, and I'll be able to look at that. But no guarantees on my Roman numerals. I am a product of the American education system, and as a result, I may need to look up certain cards if I can't tell what they are just by looking at them. But with that being said, if there are cards that come through that I don't know what they are by just looking at it, I'm gonna read whatever the description is in the book, because this guidebook is really well written, and I'm a big fan of well written guides. And yeah, I just decided to do that now so that if that situation comes up, it's more authentic, I guess. I just wanted to tell you guys the plan so that we're on the same page and we know what's going on. Okay, so with that being said, if the cards come out upright, that is going to represent aspects of self that you either view positively or just that you're consciously aware of. And if the cards come out reverse, then the aspects of self are either things that you're not consciously aware of yet, or they're aspects of self that you deem negative. Not that they are truly negative, but you deem them that way. Does that make sense? But let's go ahead and start, Spirit. We're starting off strong. Okay, so we have the 5 of Cups in reverse to start. What other aspects of self should pile 4 embrace? We have the 3 of Swords in reverse. What aspects of self should pile 4 embrace? We have the Tower in reverse. We have the Page of Cups upright. And on the back of the deck, we have the 9 of Swords in reverse. So I'm going to shuffle your oracle cards now to clarify these, as the oracles are going to represent why these elements of self should be accepted / embraced. Damn, as I was saying that, I had something to say and I forgot it. Oh, this quote just popped in my mind as I was shuffling, and I think it's very relevant for your pile. Inside every cynic is a disappointed idealist. And I believe George Carlin said it. I could be wrong. I hope George Carlin's... It wouldn't shock me if he did. He's the songbird of a generation, or comedy bird. Anyway, I'll repeat it again if you didn't hear me. It's inside every cynic is a disappointed idealist. I think George Carlin said it. And if you do not know who George Carlin is, you're welcome. Start your research. Before or after this video, I don't care. George Carlin is more important than my videos, and I will stand by that for ever. Anyway, all right, let's get some clarifiers out here. So, Spirit, why should pile 4 embrace the 5 of Cups in reverse, please? We have kindness. You are humanitarian, made of love, and you are able to share that energy with others. What about the 3 of Swords in reverse? We have detachment. You are releasing old patterns and ideas that no longer serve your highest ideals of love. What about the Tower in reverse? We have gratitude. You fully appreciate the invaluable lessons that life lovingly presents to you. What about, oh, that one came out fast, fast as fuck, boy. So for the Page of Cups, we have present. You live in the moment and are able to bring forth the energy of love in your current circumstances. And the bottom of the deck energy is, I see what word we're going to be using for this reading. I think Spirit answered that question. Acceptance. You are ready to release control of situations or people and lovingly embrace the rhythm of life. I love this. I love this. I love this. I love you, pile 4. I just want to give you such a big hug. And like, that's one of the hardest things is like, if you were here, I could just do that. But my higher self is sending your higher self a very big hug. And I hope these videos at least feel like a hug. I'm sending you a big hug anyway. That was kind of an awkward hug, but it wouldn't be awkward if you were, well, we are here. We are together. Beyond time and space, we are. And oh, yeah, I just can't get over that feeling of like, I just want to hug you so badly. And I feel like you have that quality where you are someone who is so loving and kind towards the people around you, but not towards yourself. And that's very common. And we're not going to beat you up for that because it's very normal. And I find that like, I don't know, this is just an observation and it's kind of a side note, so sorry if that's annoying for some of you, but this is my channel and I'm the daddy of this channel, all right? So you either click off or you say yes, daddy, and you listen. That being said, I forgot the point of what I was saying, so we're just gonna get back to the reading and then if I remember it, we'll get there. Anyway, let's start with this. Like, let's just start by saying like, you've been through some shiz. Like, I can tell. And the point of what I was saying, which I guess was more of like a question I wanted to pose to you guys, but like, I feel like I mean, I'm sure there's like a spectrum of this, but like in terms of experiencing a lot of like traumatic situations, I feel like there are people that project it externally, like whether it's in the form of like, you know, a personality disorder or something like that, or they just like project all of that outwards, or all of that like pain is directed towards the self, and instead of like, you know, being like projecting that pain outwards, you project it all towards yourself and like beat yourself up and like, I don't know, essentially like re-traumatize yourself and basically harm yourself as a way to avoid causing any pain or harm to others, because you know what that's like and you don't want to do that to anyone. I feel like those are like two sides of the same coin almost. I don't know. I just wanted to hear your guys' thoughts and what you think about that, because I feel like for a lot of you, you're the latter of what I just described. I definitely feel like you are someone who has experienced a lot of pain and a lot of hardship in your life. And rather than perpetuating that cycle towards other people, you've kind of bottled it up, literally, and it has, you know, done a lot in terms of how it's shaped you as a person, and it's definitely wreaked havoc on your internal world, and it's definitely put you through a lot of ish. Now, I definitely think this reading is meant for you if, well, I guess it doesn't matter if it's meant for you if it resonates. I don't need to be the tarot resonating police, but I definitely feel like something that you're meant to accept and embrace in order to find more wholeness is the totality of your story and all of the complexity and darkness within it. I also think that you are meant to accept and embrace the fact that rather than projecting your pain outward, you chose to hold it in and direct it at yourself, which means you bared the weight of not only the pain of your suffering, but also the pain of how that suffering, you know, shaped you as a person and shaped your thoughts and shaped your beliefs. That's a lot for one person to carry. And it's total, like, if you're crying or anything like that, please let it out. Please don't shame yourself for it, because not only is one, having emotions like normal, natural, and important, emotions are data, just like anything else, and you do not need to place any value judgments on certain emotions or judge yourself for having them. They're a natural human thing, and they are always trying to communicate something to us. And if you do experience emotion throughout this reading, I want you to know that that's not a sign that something's wrong. It's a sign that something's right, that things are being processed, things are flowing, and things are moving rather than stagnating within you and creating more stress and harm to your being when it doesn't need to stay there. So with this Five of Cups in reverse, I think one thing that you're being called to accept is just, you know, how your life journey has been and the challenges and hardships that you've experienced. And this is why I'm really glad that it's really interesting, because I filmed the first two readings a different night and they were both about embracing. I used the word embrace, but I'm doing these two readings tonight. And what I quickly realized for pile 3 was that this was not about embracing these qualities, because there are many aspects of life that you don't want to embrace. Like, I don't want to embrace the idea that I peed my pants on the softball field when I was 9. If you watch pile 3, you know the full story to that, and you know why I deserved acceptance and compassion. But yeah, if you want to see that, I'm sure someone can timestamp it, or you can find it. I don't know. Anyway, with that being said, you know, I think that there are many aspects of life that we're not meant to embrace, like, because that sounds kind of weird. Like, yeah, I want to embrace my trauma. Like, no, that sounds kind of silly. But accepting the fact that those things happened and embracing the parts of you that are in pain and that need love and support from you, that is maybe a more nuanced thing that I think would be more useful. But I think in this case, part of finding wholeness within yourself is accepting the fact that a large part of your story is you experiencing deep darkness and apathy. Five of Cups upright is a lot about disappointment, but I usually see it in reverse as like prolonged deep suffering or pain. And as someone who knows what that's like, that often translates into complete apathy for anything, everyone, including yourself. And that is an insanely painful place to be in, and you can't even realize it because you can't even feel the apathy. And so if you're in the process of healing and feeling again, it can be very overwhelming and challenging to not only deal with all those emotions, but also deal with the fact that you were operating as a shell of yourself for a period of time. And, you know, I think that there are a lot of narratives within, especially within like religious and spiritual communities, about just like giving your pain over to God, or like, you know, releasing that in the past. And it's not, it's just, I feel like a lot of times we want to simplify trauma, or we want to simplify those painful experiences, and they're not necessarily that simple. They're not something that can just be always healed in an instant. They're not things that we can just detach from, especially when they shape how we feel safe and shape how we operate and survive. And so I think part of this process of becoming more whole for you is about accepting the messy process of dealing with a flawed and traumatic world, and growing up in that and having those experiences, and accepting the fact that your pain is not something that is meant to be like invalidated or used as an identity, but rather as something that you know intimately, have personal experience with, and have come out on the other side. That doesn't mean that you will never not feel those ways again. But what it also means is that you have the ability to have compassion and empathy for people going through the same thing. And more than anything in this world right now, we need compassion. We need kindness. We need understanding. We need people to just chill the fuck out and give one another a break. Like, I definitely feel like with the internet and things like that, you know, a lot of pain, a lot of darkness is being exacerbated either by the platforms themselves or what the platforms are pushing. And I feel like for you, you know, I feel like the fact that we have kindness as the why, I think is so important, because first of all, understanding this pain and understanding like what it is truly like to be majorly depressed, or be in a state like that is similar to depression or apathy, or, you know, whatever it may be. Like, if you have a mood disorder, a personality disorder, and I'm also saying too, like, you could have also developed a personality disorder from like trauma and things like that. And one thing that I will say is that, like, you know, personality disorders come from trauma, and they can often be villainized in the media, and especially on social media. And what I will say is that, you know, the abuse that can happen from people with personality disorders, that's obviously not okay. But like, if you have a personality disorder, like, you're not an evil person. Like, you have like issues, and that's okay. Like, we all do. And the more we know and understand ourselves, the better we can work with it and make actions that are in alignment with our hearts. But I do want to say, like, if you're in the camp of like, you know, I have compassion for people with personality disorders, because one, I've dated them, and two, it doesn't happen spontaneously. It happens from deep trauma, and that's just how the person is coping. And unfortunately, it can be very problematic for that person and the people around them. Same way, internalizing all of that pain, internalizing all that trauma, and just directing it towards yourself can be equally destructive. You know, we as a collective society are just inheriting the pain and the wounds of our ancestors and dealing with them in whatever ways we can with the knowledge we have. It's really kind of crazy to think about, like, we really started out here in caves, and now like we're using technology and, you know, using AI to make Joe Rogan and Joe Biden like play Minecraft with each other. You know, we've really come a long way. We still have a lot to work on, but I think one thing that you may not be aware of, or maybe not recognizing, is the fact that the world needs more kindness, and you may be so focused on the meanness of the world or the negativity of the world that it makes you afraid to share more of your kindness, or at the very least it makes you afraid to be honest about your own pain and your own hardships, because there will be people that will invalidate them, or, you know, feel like what you've been through isn't enough or something like that. And that is all on the person. That is not on you. And I think one thing that you may be afraid of doing is sharing more of yourself out of fear of being hurt further, or you just may feel like you may just have a hard time, like, even being okay with yourself, because maybe you carry shame for, you know, the ways in which you coped with dark times. And maybe you're still dealing with, you know, for example, you know, maybe like for some of you, if you deal with bipolar or something like that, you know, maybe you're reeling from coming down from a manic episode or a depressive episode. Like, I feel like for a lot of you in this group, like, obviously I'm not diagnosing anything, I'm not a psychologist, but like, you can see energetic patterns with stuff like this, like, as a medium. And I'm not here to like diagnose anyone, so I'm not saying you have any of those things, but I want to call them out if they're there, just because one, if you do like struggle with certain, even just like talking about them can be hard, you know what I mean? Because like you're so much more than what you struggle with. But if you have any issues that are neurological or biological or sociological, whatever it may be, you know, your pain is valid and your struggles are valid and what you're going through is valid. But unfortunately, it seems like many of us in society are too busy tearing each other down or invalidating other people's issues, or just really just focused on the things that don't truly matter, on negativity. And I think one thing that you're being asked to embrace about yourself is that you not only know what it's like and can empathize with people going through whatever struggles you have, but also you have insight and understanding that the outside world doesn't. And more than anything, we need people who are compassionate and informed and aware and can understand certain elements of life, because, you know, imagine, like, well, don't even think you need to imagine it. You know, you explain what you have going on with you, or you explain your experiences, or explain, you know, what's wrong with you, quote unquote, and people don't understand it, or they just invalidate it, or they minimize it, or they act like it's no big deal, or that it's something to get over, or they just don't get it. And I'm sure you know how isolating that is and how shitty that feels, and the way it just makes you feel like, am I just an idiot? Can I just not get it figured out? And it's not the case. It's just the fact that many people can't truly understand what something is like until you go through it yourself. You can have an idea, you can imagine, but you truly can't understand what soul-numbing apathy feels like until you've been stuck in it for 2 years. You know what I mean? And so in that case, I feel like one aspect of self you're being called to accept is the fact that, one, you are flawed, period. Like, you're a human being and you are not going to be perfect, and life is not always going to feel easy. In fact, it's probably not going to even feel easy very often. One of the ways we can start to make it easier, though, is to recognize how we make life harder for ourselves. And one way in which I think you make life harder for yourself is that you bully yourself on top of the negative experiences you've had from the people around you. And if not bullying yourself, then at the very least, your internal dialogue is not very well, that can literally be like you verbally bullying yourself, but I feel like your internal dialogue is not fair to yourself. Like, for example, if you were stuck in a major depressive episode for 3 years, you know, you might be getting out of it and beating yourself up and being like, well, look at what everyone else in my age group is doing. They're all doing this. Like, I can't believe I wasted so much time. You didn't waste time. It's not like you were sitting there being like, I could achieve things, but I don't feel like it. You were literally being crushed under the weight of your own like pain and very real valid issues, whatever they were. Obviously, as a general reading, I can't know specifically what the case is for everyone, but you know, a lot of these I don't even want to call them like, see, this is why I should just like steer clear from even naming things, but sometimes I feel like it's important to talk about these things because, one, I want y'all to feel seen, and two, I feel like the more we talk about this stuff and the more we normalize it, like the less room there is for miscommunication, the less room there is to shame one another, and the less room there is to, you know, unintentionally hurt one another by our own ignorance or by our own like biases that we may not realize we have. You know what I mean? And so I think that one element of self you're meant to accept is just the fact that like you have spent prolonged periods in suffering or darkness, and that does not mean that you deserved that or that you were meant to go through that. Like, I hate the idea that, oh, you know, God gives his hardest battles to his strongest soldiers. Like, I just don't think that's useful. And I think in this case especially, I feel like you may be really struggling with the idea that people are telling you to like use your trauma as like fuel for growth, which like you can absolutely do, and if that resonates with your heart, do it. But sometimes we're not at a point to like do that yet. I think sometimes we have to reach a point of healing before it can be a source of fuel, and it may never be a source of fuel at all. There are wounds that we have that sometimes like are just not, we're not going to either quote unquote get over or reach a state of peace with in this lifetime, and that's okay. I feel like that there is this idea that we have to heal and we have to get everything together and we have to like, you can just do whatever you want, bro. Like, in fact, I would give you full permission to do that, because I feel like healing is messy and complicated, and it's not something that happens overnight. And I think more than anything, you're holding yourself to standards that shouldn't apply to you in the first place, because the standards you're holding yourself to are not standards that the people you're comparing yourself to experienced, at least that you know of. I feel like, especially, you know, one day I remember, like, I think it was in high school or college, I just had this realization that there are people that, like, just don't have mental health issues. And I was just like, wait, so they really just can, like, get up and, like, do things and, like, function, and they're, like, not crushed under the weight of their own existence? Like, what? And that made me have so much more compassion for myself, because I was like, yeah, it would be a lot easier to, like, make the smoothie in the morning and make your bed and get your laundry put away when you're not being crushed under the burden of your own consciousness. Love that for them. But if you are someone who does get crushed under the burden of their own consciousness and understands what that's like, not only can you be a compassionate source that can hold space for others when you're in the state too, but I feel like, you know, one thing for me is not only can you empathize with other people, but you can actually hold space for them when they're in that place and not take it on yourself. That's the key difference though. When you can hold space for someone without taking on the pain that they're experiencing, that is like the golden zone to be in, because you're still there, you're still in it with them, you're being a support system, but you're not taking it on yourself. So that's a beautiful difference between, like, compassion and empathy. I highly recommend taking on compassion, because even with compassion, you don't even have to understand what someone is going through. You can still be caring, and there's a little bit of detachment there. Now, speaking with detachment, let's kind of segue. So finishing up with this, part of what you're meant to embrace is the idea that maybe the painful experiences you've had weren't so that you could rise above them and overcome them. Not saying that you can't, not saying that you won't or anything like that, but maybe that wasn't the purpose of you experiencing those things. Maybe the purpose of you experiencing those things is just the unfortunate reality that we started as cavemen, and we've still got a lot of stuff to work out, a lot of internal issues, a lot of societal issues, and a lot of things that we just in general as a human collective need to work on, because they are affecting us on many levels. And I think in your case, I feel like if you've been struggling with the pain of, like, people telling you, oh yeah, your trauma happened for you, not to you, like, that can be true. And I can agree with that. But also, that doesn't make healing from it any easier. That doesn't make the effects of going through it in the first place any less frustrating. It doesn't make the pain any less painful. You know what I mean? And it's a lot easier to look at things happening for you when you've already moved through the majority of that pain, or there's been time and separation from, like, the most painful points of that. And when you're stuck in those really painful points, like, the last thing that you need to hear or tell yourself is, you know, platitudes that, while maybe rooted in truth, aren't going to help you in the moment. So I feel like one thing you're being called to embrace is, and I guess more so accept, is the fact that there are going to be times where you do feel low lows. There are going to be times where you do feel bogged down by the weight of your own mental conditioning. Like, it takes time for the brain to rewire itself, and old habits die hard. Like, there will be times when you regress. There will be times where you fall back into an old version of yourself. But the key difference between the important difference in that, though, is rather than beating yourself up for falling back into that cycle, you know, ruminating into oblivion about how you're going to go completely off track, or this is messing everything up, or I knew I could never change, or whatever it may be, and instead replacing it with, I seem to be falling back into some old habits. What's going on with me? Check in with yourself. See if there's any parts of yourself that need care or attention. And maybe there's nothing that needs care or attention. Maybe you just need care and attention, or just some time off. Maybe you're just fatigued, or maybe you're just having a hard time, and that's okay. Instead of beating yourself up for that, I would challenge you to look at those times when you are really struggling, and instead of, you know, shaming yourself and telling yourself to just get over it, visualize what's going on internally as like a physical ailment, like an extreme one. So like, for example, if you're dealing with like extreme grief, you know, imagine that grief as something like a broken leg. Would you tell yourself to start walking if you just broke your leg? No. And it's unfortunate that we as a society have like a much easier time accepting and validating injuries from others that we can see, because like, who knows who we unconsciously harm because we can't see that pain? Who knows? Like, there's so many silent and invisible fights that we battle on a daily basis. And I think that part of your healing process is to acknowledge the fact that you can't change what has happened to you and you never deserved it, and that you are at times going to hear things that irritate you or hurt you, even though they may not be coming from a place of malice or a place of trying to do that. They could be coming from an entirely positive place, and they could have good intentions. But accepting that that's a fact and not letting it invalidate your own pain or invalidate what you're going through, I think is incredibly important. But I also think that a lot of this pain is meant to help you become more powerful in how you show up in the world with others. I mean, you're obviously very caring, and you care about the health and well-being of others, and you want to prevent suffering in others, which is wonderful. And I think a lot of your struggles will just be a point of reference that helps you connect to people that have gone through similar things. That's not necessarily the purpose of why you went through what you did. I don't even know if there's necessarily a purpose to all of this stuff other than somebody's got to fix it. We got to grow somehow. We're going to have to deal with it. We can't just ignore things like war and disease and, well, like, we can't just ignore things and pretend like they're going to go away. It's not going to happen. So I really feel like the kindness that you show others, showing it to yourself, will really help you be more comfortable with feeling discomfort in yourself and recognizing where you've been unfair to yourself, and maybe just continuing the cycle of pain with yourself by maybe the way that you talk to yourself or the way that you think about yourself. I definitely think that you're meant to rebuild your sense of self from a place of wholeness, where you take, you know, all of the positive from your perspective elements, all of the beautiful, wonderful things you've experienced with, you know, the parts of yourself that maybe you think could evolve or you should grow from, or maybe you should heal, as well as the parts of self from your past that maybe you're ashamed of. But, you know, it's part of your story, and the parts of your past that maybe you don't want to relive, but they're there and they're operating within you subconsciously, whether you recognize it or not, and recognizing that every single part of yourself is not good or bad, it's not positive or negative, they're just elements in the beautiful creation that is you. And the less you look at them as character defects or aspects of self to put on a pedestal to the detriment of others, to recognize that they're all a portion of what makes you you. And the more you recognize that and allow all of those to integrate and be accepting of whatever is and whatever is coming through and whatever you're experiencing, that will not only allow you to make decisions from a place of better clarity, because you're seeing the full picture, and also from a place of more kindness, because when you're not aware of the subconscious wounding that may be driving certain behaviors, especially if they're behaviors you don't want to continue engaging in, it can be hard sometimes to understand why we continue to do those things. You know, is it really an addiction to a substance, or is it an underlying issue that causes that addiction to manifest, or that enables that desire to continue, like a cycle of addiction or whatever it may be? I really just feel like you're being asked to accept who you truly are, where you are now, and accept that the only thing that truly defines you is your heart. Well, I guess it doesn't even really have to. I guess nothing truly defines you. The only thing that defines you is what you define yourself by. And if you define yourself by nothing, then I guess... But other people are going to define you by their own definitions. And I think what the universe is really just asking you to accept is the fact that, like, there are going to be cruel, unkind people, and there are going to be people that are just going to say things that are so ignorant and so harmful, and they are not even going to bat an eye at it, because they have not experienced those things, and they cannot understand, and they are literally just making themselves look dumb. But they don't even realize that, because they think they're so smart. They know what they're talking about, right? And so everyone else just has to deal with that, which it sucks. But at the very least, being able to accept where you're at, accept your pain, accept your frustration, not only helps you be kinder to yourself when unwanted emotions or unwanted triggers come up, and it also helps you be a safe space for people who need that are in similar shoes as you. You know, being able to truly understand what other people are going through and be a compassionate ear and a non-judgmental one is sadly very rare. And so I think that accepting your challenges, accepting the pain that you've gone through is something that will help you make peace with the past, in the sense that like you don't have to keep continuously like beating yourself up for it or blaming yourself for things that are not your fault. But I think this could also help you embrace the idea that, one, you're not alone in these struggles, and two, you could be a very great help and benefit to people in those situations. That doesn't make what you've gone through any less hard or challenging, but at the very least, you can be a source of support for others and be that source of support that you didn't have for yourself. And I think those are some of the most meaningful roles that you can play, because you know how desperately they're truly needed, and you can make someone else's journey a little bit easier. It doesn't make what you've gone through worth it, but I mean, it's a little trade-off for the pain and hardship that you've experienced. But with that being said, let's talk about the Three of Swords in reverse with detachment. So I definitely think that you're being asked to accept the fact that like other people will suffer and pain does exist and you can't prevent that. I do feel like there is a part of you that maybe that, you know, because you know what it is like to suffer deeply and you feel deeply. I can definitely tell with this pile, there's a lot of like intense emotion, and I'm sure you were shamed for that growing up, or I'm sure, you know, you were deemed too sensitive or something like that. Because of that powerful sensitivity that allows you to empathize and be kind and things like that, you know, you can also be stuck under the weight of other people's pain. And you may also get into a problematic pattern of wanting to remove people from their pain, take people from their suffering. And if you can do that, obviously I'm not saying like if you have the ability to help someone that's suffering, you should just like let them suffer. Like, obviously I don't mean that. But in the case where, like, for example, maybe you have dealt with having like a lot of emotional vampires in your life, or energy vampires in your life, for example, that, you know, dump their problems on you, and like anytime you feel good, you're left feeling depleted, or people come to you with their woes and their sorrows, but they don't really reciprocate, and it almost kind of seems like you're a therapist friend rather than just a friend. Or, you know, maybe people gravitate towards you when it comes to sob stories because either you're easier to manipulate or they know they can get away with it. I feel like one thing that you're being called to accept is the fact that because you have this big loving heart and you don't want to see other people suffer, you may betray yourself in the process of trying to help someone else. But what you may want to look at is the fact that even that form of self-betrayal is ultimately about you. Because while you're thinking in your mind, like, I'm saving them from suffering, what's really happening is you're recognizing how painful that experience was for you. And because you care about others, you don't want them to experience that. So you're literally trying to prevent the pain of knowing that they're going through that pain and feeling that pain yourself, instead of letting them deal with that pain however they need to. I almost feel like there, in certain ways, you could be a little, it could be hard for you to respect boundaries, in the sense that maybe you find a sense of self-worth in being able to be there for people through hardships, or give a lot of yourself in order. You may, like, okay, being a martyr is not a virtue. And if you've been taught that that is the case, I think that's one thing that you need to accept, is that martyring yourself for someone else is not good, and it's not a virtue. That is not kind to yourself, and it's not fair to you or that other person, because everybody has their own challenges. And if we try to save them from their challenges or enable them, all we're really doing is allowing the problem to continue to exist and allowing them to avoid it. And if you're the link of their avoidance, you're not only creating more stress for yourself and taking on some of their burden that's not even yours, but also you're robbing them of the experience to solve their own problems and handle it on their own. So I really feel like you're being called to accept the fact that pain, suffering, and hardship exist. Whether we like it or not, that is an element of life. Darkness exists. We cannot pretend and like close our eyes and pretend like there aren't huge issues within ourselves, within others, and on a societal level. And so I really think that you're being called to accept the fact that because you have a big heart and you want to make the world a better place, it could be very easy for your boundaries to get wishy-washy when you get too passionate about something or you get too emotionally connected to something if you're not careful. So I feel like what you're kind of meant to accept and embrace is this idea that everybody can handle their own pain, and when they need help, they will ask for it. That's not necessarily always the case. You know, it can be really great to be a friend that reaches out. It can be great to, you know, be a source to encourage people to find support. But I feel like there are a lot of circumstances in which you have either betrayed yourself or put yourself in situations with people that didn't have your best interests at heart because they were not truly interested in connecting with you as a person. They were interested in getting the emotional energy or validation that you gave them. And it's really sad because you deserve to have your love and kindness shared with people that resonate with you and that care for you and that are going to give back to you in an equal fashion. And so I feel like one element you're meant to accept is the fact that you have put yourself, or you have been in situations where your kindness has been taken for granted, and it has in turn created even more pain. And so I really feel like you're being called to look at other people's pain as theirs and not something that you're responsible for feeling and not something that you're responsible for solving, because you're not. And it's not, that's poor boundaries. It's not your job to solve other people's problems unless you are being paid to do it, like being a doctor or a lawyer or a therapist or a counselor. But even if you are a doctor, lawyer, therapist, or counselor, if people need help, they can book an appointment. They can put their money where their mouth is. If not, they can find someone else for help. They don't need to take advantage of you. And I think that's the thing here, is that it may be really hard for you to consider your own needs in the face of someone else's pain. And that is just an example of the fact that you are someone who is very empathic. And if you are, then that your energetic boundaries are so freaking important, because we need you in a state of kindness and compassion. This situation, when you're just giving all of yourself to someone else and not having discernment about who that person is, and whether you're even in a state to be doing that, because clearly you're very good at giving all of yourself even when there's nothing there. It's like that story from the Bible where, you know, Jesus ends up having enough food to like feed all of his disciples, even though there like wasn't enough. It's like you're able to do that, and that's a beautiful thing. But then nothing is left for you. And it's almost like in that situation, you almost crucify yourself for other people. And whether you realize it or not, that could be an aspect of your ego that is operating, that is keeping you stuck in that loop of making yourself vulnerable to people that just want to exploit you, or, you know, have their wounds soothed, or, you know, have your attention and feed off of that. So I really think you're being called to recognize that your pain is not other people's problems, and to embrace the idea that the best type of support you can have for someone is to, you know, be a listening ear if they need it, you know, to also be conscious of whether they even want advice or not. And, you know, validate what they're going through, and don't feel like you're responsible for solving their problems. I think a lot of times when people are talking about their problems or just need to vent, they just need someone to validate, like, that, yeah, that sucks, or that's really hard. Like, I'm sure, like, that's really challenging. Just even that validation, I think, can be so healing. And a lot of times people don't even need advice. They don't need their problem solved. They just need someone to sit with them that understands what they're going through and can be compassionate, and maybe even has a couple tips on how to feel better during those rough times, which I think you have in spades, my dude. So I think you would be really great at that. And so whenever you find yourself getting into a situation where, I'm gonna have to get the book. I'm gonna keep talking because I think this book is in my bathroom. But where is it? Well, I guess I couldn't keep talking because I got distracted. But being someone who has, you know, a lot of empathy, you have to be very careful about your energetic sovereignty. So I just remembered, obviously, this book, I've been reading it a lot, but it's called Letters to a Starseed by Rebecca Campbell. She actually wrote one of the Oracle decks that I used, the one I used for pile 3, but in this she talks about being an empath, and sometimes I have a hard time with that word because it's been so exploited and manipulated. But I think that it could be helpful for you to know about being a grounded empath, because you're one or the other. So I'm going to read the characteristics. So this is Letters to a Starseed, page 183. I'm going to read characters of a grounded empath, characteristics of a grounded, and characteristics of an ungrounded. I just want you to ask yourself which ones resonate. And if the ungrounded ones resonate, you might find a lot of value in this. So, characteristics of the grounded empath: understands how to process the energy around them so they know what's theirs and what isn't, knows how to manage their energy, and likely has a daily practice to empty out on an energetic level. I cannot tell you how important that is. If you are a sensitive person, you need to focus on your energetic hygiene. Like, your energetic hygiene is incredibly important, because you won't even realize something's stinky until it gets real stinky. Is able to take responsibility for their energetic well-being in an empowered way. Is clear on boundaries and takes responsibility for their needs. Knows that they get to choose when to absorb something energetically and when to shift it. Knows that they're in control of their gift to feel and shift energy, and that they get to decide what to do with their energy. Doesn't run away from or avoid the uncomfortable for fear of it taking them down. Knows how to be in the uncomfortable, to stay in their power, and to transform through it. Actively decides what to absorb, what to cut off from, and what to transmute. Doesn't gloss over or bypass difficult truths, conversations, or experiences. Is open to healing from any traumatic events that have made them hypervigilant, codependent, or feeling like a victim of the energy of the world, which I think is so true. And this is why I'm like very careful. Like, I was talking a lot about this and saying, like, you know, you don't necessarily have to if you're not ready, and you don't have to look at things from that perspective, because I think that idea can be very painful. But I do think also, you know, once we're able to accept what's going on, I think that is a great stepping stone in order to embracing the idea of healing it, or embracing the idea of living a life not being so afflicted by those wounds. Does that make sense? I just never want to invalidate someone else's pain because I'm in a better state than they may be in, or because I'm just not aware of the pain. That, like, pain is super valid, and I just don't believe in like having people rush through that process of whatever that may be. You know, sometimes we just need time to be in darkness and to be in pain, and that's what is needed, and that's okay. And that doesn't mean that like you should always stay there, that's how it's always meant to be. But I do think that sometimes prolonged periods of intense darkness have a purpose. Like in my case, that was for me a really long time, like ages 12 to 22, and then that led to like a big spiritual awakening. So like, you know, sometimes we just have different challenges. You never know why you're going through something. I just never want anyone to feel like their pain isn't valid or that their struggles aren't valid. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, has activated their inner mother and is able to practice genuine self-care. Knows that they get to choose when to receive energy for alchemizing it and receiving energy because they want to absorb or merge with it. Knows how to turn their feelings into action to avoid stagnation and overwhelm, and actively uses tools such as nature, meditation, dance, exercise, and other forms of expression to avoid buildup or stagnation of energy. So those are all characteristics of a grounded empath. So these are all things that that you are capable of if you are a highly empathic person. So one of the reasons why I don't like empath is because I think like, I don't know, I think a lot of people have taken it and used it as a way to say like, I'm highly sensitive to how other people perceive me, but I do not give a single shit how my behavior affects you. I feel like there are a lot of people that like that would really latch on to the idea of empath. I think, no, I'm not going to say it. That's probably not good. I don't need to give examples. I'm sure some come to mind. But characteristics of the ungrounded empath: thinks that they have no power over the energy with which they come into contact, doesn't know how to process the energy around them or their own energy, and doesn't know what's theirs and what they've absorbed from the world around them or other people. Becomes overwhelmed by all that they're feeling and believes that their only option is to remove themselves from the situations to avoid depletion. Believes they're a victim of harsh energies of the world. Avoids conflict or uncomfortable situations at all cost. Doesn't recognize that they have the power to decide whether or not to transform the energy around them. Is often confused by their feelings and unsure of which are theirs and which are other people. peoples, is afraid of setting clear boundaries, and finds themselves stuck in codependent relationships, may be stuck in a fight, flight, or freeze response. So if those resonate, then you may want to look into either this book, it's called Letters to a Starseed, or there's a book, I think the name is, I think it's called like the Empath Survival Guide, and I know the author is like, her name's like Dr. Judith, I can't remember what her last name is, I think it's Judith Orloff, but I know her first name is Judith and she's a doctor. That being said, I definitely think that by becoming more grounded in your energy and protecting it, the more you'll become aware of how easy it is for other people to drain you, and how much power you have in stopping that. And also recognizing when someone is feeding off of you. Like I've even had experiences where I've been reading for someone like in person, and you know, they start going into this spiel about how like nobody likes them, and like they, you know, they're really just going into like all of the problems in their life, and like it's all external to themselves, and I could literally feel like my energy being drained, and a voice popped in my head and was like, hey, they're draining you. Put up some boundaries. And as soon as I did that, I felt better, and I was able to sit in that energy without taking it on, and it was just that conscious awareness of it, and I could like literally feel it stop as soon as I decided, no, I don't want this to happen. Like my energy is mine, thank you. And like that all happened within like 2 seconds, and it was literally as I was talking and communicating and like channeling, and that just happened in my head while I was doing it. So like really, the shift in energy when you become consciously aware of when you're being drained, or when there is a big emotion that's not yours, and like literally just returning it can have such a powerful effect on your experience. And one thing I think you'll realize as you detach is that it may not even always be that you were giving so much of yourself to others because you wanted to prevent them from that pain, but maybe you also just wanted to prevent the pain of having to sit in it with them, or the pain of reliving those similar painful experiences, or just the pain you felt that maybe they weren't acknowledging, or like something of that nature. Like I definitely think that the more detachment you have in terms of people outside of you that are not like people that you're connected to, without leaving your humanity out of it, I think will be very useful. So like I think what would be best for this pile is to embrace compassion over empathy, so that you can still be that kind, caring person that you are, but with a healthy level of detachment that, one, does not force you to empathize with people, because you can't always empathize with people, and two, it doesn't make you place a value judgment. It doesn't make you feel like you have to be responsible for someone else's pain, and you don't have to share in the emotional experience of that pain. You can instead be the rock instead for the person going through the emotion. And I really think that that's something very needed. So with that being said, let's talk about the Tower in reverse with gratitude. And I think this one is very straightforward. I think it is acceptance of the challenges and hardships that you've gone through, and not allowing those to shape your view of how things should be, or make you jaded or bitter. It may happen sometimes, and it is completely understandable that you may feel frustration or anger or even envy when you see other people having, you know, not having the same experiences that you did, or having it easier, or whatever it may be. And I feel like more than anything, you're really just being encouraged to recognize like how lucky those people are to not know that pain. And at the same time, be grateful that you don't act like an ass because of your own ignorance, which I guess, to be fair, we can all act like asses because of our own ignorance. So I apologize if I've ever, you know, acted like an ass out of my own ignorance. I never tried to. It is ignorance ultimately. But I always come at things with the intention of kindness, which I'm sure you do too. So I feel like the more you can kind of recognize that, the less you can take that energy personally. But I also feel like because you know what it's like to lose things and for life to switch in an instant, I feel like that awareness is not something that people have, and there are many life experiences that many of us take for granted, and oftentimes it isn't until people are on the last days of their life or you know, are reaching their golden years that they start reflecting and, you know, regretting certain decisions that they made, or regretting that they didn't go for something, or regretting that they spent so much time focused on something superficial or something like monetary, or focused on, or, you know, they had like years of something very beautiful and they never consciously recognized it because they were too focused on what was wrong, or they were too focused on an external goal that really didn't amount to much but appeasing their egos, for example. And I feel like in your case, you're really being encouraged to recognize that you know what it is like to love and to lose, and you know what it is like to go through intense hardship. So recognizing that every day is a gift, and you know, you deserve to use the gift of life in ways that support you and make you feel good, and also allow you to become a version of yourself that is aligned with who your soul wants you to become, and also that makes you feel good about yourself and helps you reach a point in your story where you can say, yeah, I've been through XYZ, but these are the choices I made, and this is how I worked with that energy, and this is where I am now, and this is how I feel, and these are the tools that I've developed to grow, and I'm present and more at peace. Because ultimately, what you're really truly being called to embrace is the present, and not allow all of this past pain and the wounds from that pain to inhibit your ability to enjoy the present the way you deserve to. And I really love that this Page of Cups is in this bottle, because I really do feel like no matter what's going on in your life, like life will be chaotic at times, but the more you learn how to find a center within yourself, despite that, the more clear-headed you will be when you're facing life's challenges, and the easier it will be for you to have like this sense of being present and allowing the outside world to fall away. Because I feel like you need time either with your inner world or with your creative side to really feel healed. And you know, this says you live in the moment and are able to bring forth the energy of love in your current circumstances. So I really feel like you're being called to embrace the inner child of you that is a dreamer, you know, that disappointed idealist. I think that idealist has many ideas that could be carried out by someone with the knowledge and wisdom that comes from dealing with the real world and dealing with real problems. You know, I don't know how we never noticed this, but like Barbie as Rapunzel, for example, that girl was locked up in a house with a woman that kidnapped her, abused her, and made her like work every single day of her life. And she just had like no trauma and was just like so chill. Like, how do all these Disney princesses deal with, like, extreme cases of, like, abuse or neglect or whatever it may be, and they're just, like, chilling. They're just vibing. Like, that's an excellent example of where fairy tales are BS. And so I think part of your fairy tale arc is recognizing that you have faced the pain, the hardship, the monsters of the world, and you haven't allowed it to corrupt your heart and corrupt the spirit, the true spirit of yourself, and your childlike spirit as well. You've never let go of the essence of who you truly were. Even if it was lost, even if it was distorted, even if you were disconnected from it for a time, you never truly lost it, and you never allowed the darkness around you to corrupt it. I think the challenging thing is like in that ungrounded empath thing, you know, you may feel like you have to isolate yourself from the outside world, that you can't share yourself, and that if someone is dealing with something negative, you're powerless to stop yourself from intervening, or you're powerless to say no because you feel too bad, or you understand what it's like and you want to help, and whatever that may be. I really just think you need to tell yourself more often, not my circus, not my monkeys. Like, it's time for you to be a monkey in your own circus and have fun doing it. It's like you're headed towards a point where you're going to be able to be present with yourself and just be open and comfortable with that, rather than, you know, being open to yourself and having all of this pain come up or all of this stuff come up. Like, that will happen from time to time as you grow and heal. But I think you're meant to embrace the light, playful part of yourself, because not only has that part of yourself been very starved of attention and needs your attention and care, but also it's something that will help you be in the present moment. You know, it's hard to get out of your head when you're stuck in it, you know? It's a lot easier to get out of it when you're lost in dance or nature or something creative, something that requires you to be fully engaged with it. I really think you're being called to embrace your playful side more, and look at how maybe your playful side can be a source of healing for you. You know, maybe you can take painful experiences you've had and translate them into artwork or inspiration for research or whatever it may be. But ultimately, I feel like you're meant to embrace the fact that life is constantly changing, and there are a lot of things we can't control, but what you can control is the present moment, and you deserve to enjoy and embrace those moments because you've had a lot of painful, challenging, and dark ones. You deserve to have a nice one now and then, and in fact, you deserve to have a lot of nice ones, and you deserve to have nice ones even while you're going through difficult times. And, you know, that's the beauty of life, is that we can experience complexity, nuance, and bittersweetness all at once, but oftentimes we can't truly understand that until we've experienced both sides. You know, someone who has not dealt with intense, deep struggles is going to have a really hard time empathizing with someone who's going through complete darkness. And someone who's going through complete darkness is going to look at someone that has not understood that in a way that probably makes them think the person not dealing with that is, you know, ignorant or, you know, dumber or just doesn't get it. I don't know. But ultimately, both sides are missing out on half of the puzzle. There's a reason the yin yang includes both light and darkness and a balance of it. That's kind of life. And I feel like what really needs more balance within you is a focus on the parts of you that need love from, you know, painful past experiences, and the parts of you that wish to be expressed but haven't been able to in the past because you've either been working through big heavy issues, or, you know, you've been too afraid to just like let yourself go and be present. And maybe right now the goal is, can I spend 20 minutes fully engrossed in something a day and kind of get a break from my brain or get a break from my life? Like, even that I think can be a positive goal. But I feel like one thing that you should embrace is the powerful imagination you have and like the whimsical perspective you have, because not only can that be very helpful, but it also can be a beautiful source of like healthy escape for you, where you kind of get to release, you know, any pent up energy and also, you know, feed that creative side of yourself. And that's giving you a constant resource to draw on when you are feeling more depleted, or you do feel like you need to fill up your cup. I feel like also, in terms of finding your path and finding what's going to work for you, I think that your inner child has a lot of wisdom for you. And also, like, I think that there are a lot of parts of self that you've detached from, not because they're not parts of you, but because you may be ashamed of them or you were taught in childhood that those parts of you are bad or wrong. And I think that part of your healing process and part of what you're meant to embrace is that those parts of self that could not change and they're just part of who you are, like, those are not things to shame. Those are things to embrace. And I guess acceptance comes in the fact that not everybody can understand what it is like to be different. And a lot of people are very lucky that they don't know the pain of their differences being invalidated or being made to feel like they're not worthy of acceptance or even life because of those differences. And I think that the more you connect with that inner child, not only do you connect with your spirit, but you truly embrace life for what it is, and you focus on the present, because that's where the gift of life lies. And I feel like there's a lot of healing, wisdom, and inspiration there for you. So I feel like, really, if anything, if you thought like, oh, I need to get my shit together and I need to do more of this and I need to hustle more, I need to grind more. No, you don't. You need to play in a whimsical fantasy land more. You need to be silly and do hooligan things more often. You need to laugh more and have fun. Because ultimately, what you are meant to accept and embrace is a life that is not plagued by your own mind and by your past and by fears and darkness. And the thing is that you're not meant to pretend like they don't exist or pretend like they're not there or ignore them. You're meant to accept them so that you can be realistic about what is actually going on and make decisions and take action from a place of awareness and from a place of empowerment, rather than a place of cluelessness or a place of uncertainty or guilt or shame, and create a harmful cycle for yourself that just doesn't need to be there anymore, if at all. And the fact that we have acceptance here, you're ready to release control of situations or people and lovingly embrace the rhythm of life. I think part of this acceptance as well is the fact that, you know, you are allowed to feel good, and that there are going to be times where you feel great and other people don't, whether they're people in your life or they're people that you see in the outside world around you. And there's nothing you can do about other people's suffering, and it's not your job to be responsible for it. In fact, what I feel like you're meant to embrace is the idea that people have control over themselves, and that if someone is asking you for help, obviously, if you are in the place to do it and you can and you want to, you can help others, but it is not your responsibility to save everyone. It's not your responsibility. Like, you gotta stop feeling like the weight of the world is on your shoulders, because it's not. And when you're consciously aware of when you're placing that weight on yourself, then you can also consciously release it. So I feel like you're really just meant to embrace the fact that darkness exists and it's not going anywhere. It's part of the duality of the human experience. And what we do with that darkness is up to us. The more awareness we have and the more acceptance we have of it, the more we can empower ourselves to act in ways and deal with it in ways that support and align us with the person we wish to be, rather than, be ashamed and hate the person that we have become as a result of the ways in which we coped with our issues and traumas. Does that make sense? But now I'm going to go ahead and get into some more messages. This is a very long, it's so funny. I always know that, I never put time limits on these because, one, I don't like to be rushed, and two, it's what if I get the best insight at 31 minutes is a 30-minute reading? I just don't believe in that. But, sometimes even I beat myself up and I'm like, I should be able to do all 4 of these readings, or I should be able to do this. But it's if I had done all 4 readings in one night, you and Pile 3 would have not gotten the same quality of reading, because these are dense topics with a lot of complexity and nuance, and my brain wouldn't have been in the right place, and I probably wouldn't have been able to spend as much time and care on your piles with more awareness if I had just forced myself to push through it, And the point of me saying that is we hold ourselves to these standards, but sometimes things just work out better when we just follow our own rhythms and trust what feels right. You know what I'm saying? I guess that's the point of what I'm trying to say. But Spirit, can you go deeper into the 5 of Cups in reverse? Okay, we got 2. We have truth. See your light, know your power, have the courage to walk your truth. Yeah, especially when it comes to talking about your hardships or difficulties, because people might want to invalidate you, or might say dude, poop stinks. It doesn't matter if you took a big old smelly dump or you take rabbit poops. No matter what, poops poop. Nobody can invalidate your trauma or invalidate what you've gone through. And the truth is that trauma is not judged based upon the act. It's about how the traumatized person reacts to the act. I mean, it could be something, there could be things that other people would deem incredibly traumatic that a person walks away from fine. And there are other things that other people would deem as not traumatic at all that deeply traumatizes someone. It's not about the action. It's about how the person responds to the action. And that is how you need to remind yourself when someone does make you feel like your pain is when someone is invalidating your pain or making you feel like you don't understand or something like that. See what I'm saying? We also have inner alchemy. Inner alchemy is achieved when you react to fear with love. So yeah, you're literally in the process of a transformation. And when you accept listen, you have a lot of fuel for transformation, I'm telling you. And I also think that this process is really going to help you recognize the unhealed wounds in others, and therefore you'll take their behavior less personally, and you'll also be less vulnerable to other people's excuses or stories that they tell when it comes to why they can't change or how they could never grow. Thing is that, we're all doing the best we can with where we're at, and I think in your case, I definitely think you're a healer, a healer of generational cycles. Whether you have children or not, I think that you are just going to positively impact your entire family line based on whatever work you do. But I also think that, you just being honest about your pain and honest about your experiences is what we need more of. We don't need more people telling, someone who's deeply depressed, just get over it. Have you gone outside? Have you just drank some water? I listened to this podcast about this person who had depression, and they just said to stop being depressed. So have you tried that? A lot of that stuff's not going to work. And sometimes, well, let's be real, anything that I just listed is probably not going to work. They might help and they might assist, but I think, lots of issues are more complex than they look on the surface. And I think you having the understanding of that and the nuance of how certain messages can come across and how, even well-intended people can create harm, you can empower and inspire others to achieve similar types of healing and growth by doing it yourself and finding what works for you. Even though what works for you may not work, will be what works for someone else, may not, could be, you're at least giving them the inspiration that they can do it, and also your evidence that things can be grown through, and, you know, things of that nature. What about the Three of Swords in reverse, Spirit? We have wisdom. See your adversaries as opportunities to expand your spiritual light. Yeah, so I also think as well, if there's any past heartbreaks that you're like holding on to, or especially this, one of my biggest pet peeves in this world is when we talk about relationships that don't last forever as like failures. Like, first of all, no relationship lasts forever because no human lives forever. So, meh. And second, I don't think I think the idea of a relationship being successful only if it lasts forever is really silly and probably creates a lot of unnecessary stress on people, because sometimes there are people that we're just meant to grow with for a little bit. Sometimes there are people that are meant to be catalysts or to help change our path, but, you know, ultimately they're going to go on theirs too. I feel like if you're looking at past heartbreak or beating yourself up over maybe causing heartbreak for someone else, you're being asked to look at how, you know, human that situation is. And obviously if you can have healing conversations and that's something that is possible, you know, and you feel called to, do it. But if, you know, communicating is not something that you either want to do or feel comfortable doing, I mean, you can even like just pray that for forgiveness, either for yourself or for others. And even in general, like when you look at the concept of forgiveness, you don't have to think about like forgiving others, but instead forgiving yourself for how you needed to cope with that action, and forgiving yourself for like taking, you know, their poor behavior towards you as a sign that there was something wrong with you. It's like forgiveness is for you, not for the person that did the crappy thing. But also don't force yourself to feel any forgiveness if you don't feel it. I think probably just one of the most unhelpful things is like when we try to force ourselves to feel something, or we invalidate something because we should do this. I just don't think that's useful. But I also think that when we sit in our suffering and hold on to it and like attach it like to our identity, I think that can just be equally as problematic, because there's no space and room to move through those challenges and, you know, see things from a different light. You're sitting at the halfway point of a cycle and saying that point of the cycle is who you are, and you're actively making life harder for yourself because you're stagnating and focusing on staying in that point. Anyway, Tower in reverse. Spirit's really like, you can use some gratitude. Universal love shines through the miracles of life all around you. And yeah, I think just in general, like, it's easier to be grateful during a feast than a famine, but finding gratitude during the famine as well as the feast makes any time a little bit better. It's gonna make the feast, you're gonna know you're gonna be really grateful for it, but also, you know, finding gratitude even during our hardships, I think, is something that can just kind of, you know, be the little extra fuel that we need to make a situation just a little bit less awful, or just make the intensity of whatever challenges we're going through a little bit less hard. Doesn't make anything go away, but at the very least, you're looking at things from a more realistic perspective, because it's oftentimes we don't realize what we have until it's gone. But finally, with the Page of Cups, we have intuition. Trust your intuition. It has been guiding you to the answers that you seek. And that's the thing. Anxiety is intuition's cock block. And cog block, because like the cogs of your brain. And as a result, it can be really hard to trust yourself and listen to yourself when, you know, you can't get past the barrier of mind chatter that stands in the way of you listening to your intuition. Anxiety screams, intuition whispers. And so if you can't hear your intuition, that is a sign to maybe get some excess energy out, mental energy out, or do something that gets you out of your head and into the present. Because when you're able to be present for yourself and make room for input and stimuli to come in, whether that's internally or externally, you are likely going to be able to hear your intuition easier. But finally, on the back of the deck, well, this one also like flew off, so... And I think this was actually on the back of the deck of another pile. Let me know if you picked that one too. But it says, to be a free spirit is to float without walls, to fly without judgment, and to love without condition. And I really think that's what your spirit is trying to do. Like, it wants to be set free. It wants to be part of the ocean. It just needs to learn how to cultivate its own. You just need to learn how to cultivate your own safety bubble within that, so that you can move and operate in the world freely without feeling like you are a victim to what the rest of the world is dealing with. Because the rest of the world is dealing with a lot of ish. But we also have blue flame. Connect to the blue flame, which is the light of pure love within you. So I would Google the blue flame. I have heard, I don't know if this is the indigo flame, but it is connected to Archangel Michael. And this is my Archangel Michael's sword. So I don't know, you could have a special connection to Archangel Michael. But that being said, we're gonna pull some channel messages. Why don't we just channel them from Archangel Michael? Like, why not? YOLO, right? But also, like, these can really be from any unconditionally loving source. You know, Archangel Michael is not going to be upset if you don't believe in him. It's just a bummer for you because you're going to miss out on all of his jokes, but it's fine. Anyway, Archangel Michael and / or any unconditionally loving source of divinity that watches over and guides pile 4. What would you like pile 4 to know? You have a compassionate, giving nature that is always putting others before yourself to help as much as you can. Make sure you are not overextending your energy to the point where you are not giving that love and compassion back to yourself. Balance is key. I love when my guidance just reiterates exactly what I was trying to say in a much more eloquent and well-put way. It just shows how effective my brain is. We also have organize and reprioritize your life. Finding a routine in which you can feel safe, secure, and productive can be beneficial for your health and overall well-being. Fine-tune and refocus. Yes, absolutely. And also, let go of the idea that routines have to suck. Make a routine that works for you. Maybe part of your routine is giving yourself like 20 minutes to be silly. No skip days. Even if you're sick, silly sick. You got to do something that makes you feel silly. I don't know, something like that. We also have know that the worst is over for you. Know that the worst is over for you now. You may have endured a heavy lesson, but you have mastered it and come out a much stronger person. You are in the process of recovery and soon will be ready to look forward, which is, I definitely agree with. But I don't know. I don't even like the idea that like our challenges are lessons. Like it almost like it gives us this idea that like, I don't know. I just think we experience things and like, I don't know, that's getting into a whole thing. You can call it lessons. I just have a hard time like looking at things like trauma or abuse and being like, yeah, it was the lesson that you had to go through. Like, I don't think it's necessarily a lesson. I think we call it that because like that's how our brains like conceptualize it, and like with the English language it might like correlate with the term lesson, but I don't really think they're lessons. Like, I think that they're life experiences and they're a direct reflection of, you know, the environment we're in, the environment we're brought up in, the society we're brought up in, you know, the ways in which we're taught, the ways in which we learn how to be a human. Like, I don't know, I just think things are much more complex, and the weight of your own trauma and burdens is not solely on yourself. Like, I think the fact that we do have people that are struggling mentally and emotionally and physically, like, is a sign that we have issues that need to be met. And if we ignore them and neglect them and act like they're not real, that's not changing anything. We're just, you know, neglecting a portion of society that needs more help, needs more assistance, because those portions are shining a light on areas where we as a society are failing and where we need to do better. So you have a lot of insight into whatever your particular area is. And I hope that, you know, whatever like, wherever you are in your healing journey, whatever you've gone through, I hope that you can look at what you've gone through and honor yourself for the fact that you've kept that beautiful light of yours. And even if it went out for a bit, or even if you lost it for a bit, just to know that the purity of your spirit is something that nobody can ever take from you. And it's something that you can never shy away from. It's always there. The only thing you can do is believe that you're impure, but that's wrong. Society has dumb, wrong ideas of what purity is, which I don't know if you've noticed, but society has a lot of dumb, wrong ideas about a lot of things. And one of them, like the purity of your spirit and the purity of your heart are things that nobody can ever take away from you and nobody can ever manipulate or distort. And so if you've got those two things, I think you'll be just fine. Let's get one more though. You are absorbing energies that are not solely yours. Your body, mind, and spirit is in need of a detox and cleansing of dense energies. As an empath, you are highly sensitive. So yeah, I'm glad I picked up on that because you are, and you just need more time to protect your boundaries and recognize when energy is yours and when it's not. And that's the thing too, is like, if you don't know what your own energy feels like, it's gonna hard to be centered when you don't even know what you feel like. So maybe spending some time in isolation, if that's possible, might be useful. And especially when it comes to tech, because tech can be the most distracting. Even just spending a day with yourself without tech I think it'd be incredibly useful. But on the back of the deck, we have self-love is truly the key to harmonious relationships and manifestation. Spend some quality time with yourself right now and work on truly loving and valuing all parts of yourself. Yeah. So, you know, I love that, because that was the point of this reading, is to find more wholeness in yourself. So that being said, we're going to go ahead and finish this reading off with some guidance. You guys got a lot of guidance cards. And I hope that so far I've been doing that job. But to start, we have Archangel Zerial. Give and receive love, obey the spiritual laws. Oh, okay. I felt really called to say, like, if anyone has lost any pets recently, or, you know, been really missing a pet that has crossed the rainbow bridge, I feel like this is a sign that they are sending you love, and that they're watching over you, and they're sending you signs. If there was a sign that came to mind, then I would see that as being from them. But also, I think that you're really just being encouraged to not let the hate and lack of the outside world to get in the way of your love, because ultimately, you know, the sun doesn't stop shining because some people forgot to bring their shades. Like, the sun does its thing, and those people can either go buy some sunglasses, or like close their curtains, or go inside and be curmudgeons. It's not the sun's problem. The sun's got an important job to do. All right, the sun doesn't stop shining for some haters, and you are the sun. But we also have birthing a new age, birthing new creations, dreaming a new world into being. Yeah, I really feel like you're being prepped now for a period of time that is going to help you start fresh, and that is going to be a solid foundation for you to grow and build the life that you truly want, and build a life that does not, that was not built in spite of what you went through, but rather a life that you built regardless of whatever you've been through or continue to go through. We also have the Isn't that so funny? It's happening for you, not to you. And I feel like this is a complex thing, because, you know, like I said, I feel like there are a lot of people that are still deep in their own pain, or just still deep in whatever they're going through. And like, hearing stuff like it's happening for you, not to you, or like, you know, you grow through what you go through, like, that's not going to be useful to someone in the thick of it. I think it's definitely more useful when you reflect and you see how you grow. But I think it's so funny that this came through, because if you are someone that cringes at those statements, which I completely understand why, you know, you might find that you actually resonate with those after a period of time, and you understand them in a way you didn't before. But also, I think that it's okay to not accept those at all. I feel like this is honestly like a joke. I feel like Spirit's trolling me a little bit, but I also think that, you know, there is truth in those statements, but there's only truth there for the people that see that truth and find that truth. So if that's not your truth, that's okay. And you also don't have to accept that truth from anyone else. I feel like, you know, it's really easy to sit here from a place of having more awareness of self, and, you know, being out of a dark state, and be like, you can do it. Like, it's a lot easier to say that when you're not in the thick of it. You know, it's a lot easier to say, like, chilling in my boat is fun when the water is still. But, you know, if you're in a boat and it's storming and you're just trying not to sink, it's going to be hard to just think good thoughts, and just, like, you know, it's going to be a little stressful. So I feel like you're really just being called to stay open to life, and not let the pain of life be something that closes you off, but also recognize the fact that you even feel life that deeply and intensely is a sign of just, like, the beauty of your own humanity, and why you deserve to be here, because you're experiencing things to such a degree that not only can you translate to that experience to people who are less sensitive, but also, you know, you're truly living. You are experiencing life. Like, I think the purpose of life is to live it. And when you experience those deep highs and those deep lows and those powerful highs, you know, you're getting the full breadth of the human experience, and stretching its limits. And that's really what the soul is here to do, right? If we are calling this earth school, if we are calling this lessons. But like I said, I think it's easier to look at things as like lessons when we're detached from it, or we're not going through it, or we're not in the thick of it. And I just don't feel right about, like, invalidating your own pain by telling you, like, yeah, like, the universe sent it to you because you're meant to grow. Like, I don't know, it just doesn't sit right with me. Anyway, we also we have the theme of balance. What did I say? Okay, I also love lavender. The trigger statement is, no one understands me. The true statement is, I ask for what I need. From a place of love, you need to stand up and speak your truth. What you wish for is what the universe wishes for you. Yes, and I also feel like if you're someone who is very intuitive, you may take for granted the fact that you can read other people's minds, or read what's going on with other people. And I would argue that you specifically need to stop doing that, because I used to do that, and it caused me nothing but issues and frustration. You know why? Because anybody that was being passive aggressive towards me, and I picked up on that, and I wanted to deal with the problem, they would not want to. They would want to pretend like nothing was there, create a little fuss, stir up some like drama in the sense like they'll know I'll care, they know I'll be open, but they might want to hang it over my head, or maybe nothing's wrong. They just wanted to stir up a problem. So I have the policy, and I have for a while, and I highly recommend it, is if you have a problem with me, come and tell me. If there is something wrong, say it. But also, that doesn't mean I won't ever ask someone, you know? Maybe someone feels uncomfortable, maybe you're afraid of conflict or things like that. But if I directly ask you and say, hey, you're being a little distant, like, is there something going on? Like, do you want to talk? And they say, no, everything's fine. Then everything is fine, and I'm going about my day and not worrying about it a minute more. And that would have not been me like 2 years ago. So if you're that type of person, just know you don't have to be that person. And also, it is so freeing in just telling yourself, like, if someone truly has a problem with me, they can come to me. And if I ask if someone has a problem and they say everything is fine, I am going to believe them, even if I know at my core there is something wrong. We do not enable that behavior in this house, so do not enable that behavior. I refuse to. It's bullshit, and I will call that out to people right in their face, and they do not like it. So, yeah, you can be kind about it. As you can tell, it's kind of a contentious topic, it makes me mad because of my past experiences with it, and I realize what crap it is to like transfer your problems onto someone else by making them think they've done something wrong, or by refusing to work through an issue, almost like because someone wants there to be a problem. I just have beef with that, and I just had to rant about that. And with that being said, you know, if you are that person, it is not your job to read people. It's not your job to tune into other people. It is not your job to emotionally regulate others. Unless you're like a parent or something, but I don't know. Even then, I'm not a parent. I don't know stuff about that. But what I do know is that you do not need to deal with other adults' petty, whiny, passive-aggressive bullshit. If they have something to say to you, they could say it to your face. You can ask them directly, kindly. And if they say no, everything is fine, and you may go about your day. If they truly have a problem, they'll speak up. We also have, being enough has nothing to do with my accomplishments. Nothing is ever enough for a mind always striving for more. Being enough means accepting myself as I am right now as a work in progress, which, yeah, I think is so beautiful. And that's actually something that I've been doing for myself, and I will say is very helpful, because I'm sure, like, anyone, like, I think it's very common as humans, we almost place our value in our accomplishments or in what we're able to do. And that really is crappy, because a lot of the best elements of human beings are not things that are measured. It's by their compassion, their care, you know, their funny little quips, or their insights, or just the time that you share with one another. And, you know, the people that love you accept you for who you are. They're not judging you because they're not only your friend because you have a master's. Like, they're not only your friend because you're forklift certified, although that will help. If you are forklift certified, I do want to be your friend. But I would accept you even if you weren't forklift certified. So, you know, just recognize, like, yeah, you can use things to... I'm just getting into a ramble, and I've rambled enough in this reading, let's be real. We also have, sometimes it feels like I'm carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders. I ground myself and remind myself that Mother Earth has my back. I can feel it in my bones. I let go of unnecessary baggage. Yeah, I think there's some major healing for you to do. And I just heard specifically botanical gardens. So maybe spending some time in a garden like that could be really healing. Maybe there's like inspiration in the plants or something like that for you. I don't know, check it out. But to finish off, we have surrender to rest and sleep. To prevent burnout, slow down. Honor your need for quiet time and peaceful sleep to rejuvenate your body, mind, and spirit. Yeah. Part of self-care, part of healing is sometimes just sleep. Sleep is one of the most restorative and healing and rejuvenating things you can do for yourself. So definitely do that. And I will also highly recommend, before I go to bed, like I say prayer as a form of manifestation, and I always say my prayers. And I always like pray to my higher guidance, my unconditionally loving higher guidance, I specify that, to heal my body, mind, and soul while I sleep, or to assist that. And I don't know, it's just like a good little insurance thing. I don't know, it just makes me feel good. But pile 4, we've had a time. We've done a lot. And I really hope that I channeled what was necessary. And I really hope that you got the message that you needed to. So whether you did or not, thank you so much for being here. And thank you so much for letting my ads play in the background, because that is one of the simplest and easiest ways to support me financially and show appreciation for me and my channel. Though if you'd like to support me in other ways, you can like this video, which is insanely helpful. Comment down below, let me know how it resonates. You know, if there's anything you want to respond to, anything you want to talk about, anything you want to get off your chest, just try to be kind to me, yourself, and others. Feel free. You can subscribe if you haven't already, which crazy, you should do that, and click that little bell notification to be notified whenever I upload a new reading, because I most often see comments when I first upload, and after that I may not, because I don't really read comments after that because I get very afraid, and I'm only one person, so, and I'm intensely self-critical, so, you know, I don't need extra criticism. Anyway, candles, be sure to use code ASO10 for 10% off on my candles or any candles on the site. And finally, I have merch and my social media. But that's all I have for you guys, so thank you so much for watching and for being here. I hope you all have a wonderful day or night whenever it is that you're watching this video, and I hope you'll come back and see me again soon. Bye!